Good morning, everyone. This is Andrea Lawful Sanders. Yes, it's me again. Second Tuesday in a row, I am here hosting the Source, guest hosting the Source, and I think I'll be a little bit better this week than I was last Tuesday, right, Kayla?
You were wonderful.
Well, thank you, my love. So, when I was asked again yesterday to do this show this morning, there were a few things that were on my mind that I wanted to talk about, and so we're going to have some really good guests today to talk about those things. And I wanted to start with an article that I saw in the Chicago Sun-Times around how to be a white neighbor in a black neighborhood. Now, for those of us that live in urban environments, we've been noticing over time that our neighbors are changing. And particularly in my neighborhood, I have a neighbor that is Caucasian that lives a few doors away from me, and was wondering how that would affect, what was going on in our community. Luckily for us, the neighbor we have is from another state, and instead of coming in and trying to tell us what to do in our community, for those of us who have been there for years, there have been families in my community 10, 20, 30 years that have been there a long time. This particular group of neighbors jumped in and asked how they can support. They came and knocked on our doors, asked to meet us, came into our homes. When one of my other neighbors was having a party, they came over and offered to wash the dishes. I was like, all right, now in these Wakandan streets, we can do this. And they've been just wonderful. And I've asked us questions about the neighborhood, what can they do to support, da-da-da-da-da. Unfortunately, this is not happening everywhere in America. And so there was an article written by Natalie Wymore a couple of days ago that says how to be a white neighbor in a black neighborhood. And this is centered around Washington, D.C. and Howard University, where, the area is being gentrified and white neighbors are walking through the yard, the Howard University yard, where the Divine Nine has their things set up, the Kappas, the Alphas, the Deltas, and their dogs are pooping on what black folks would consider to be sacred ground, and they don't care, right? They're having like this thing about it. And in the other day was the homecoming, and the white neighbors were complaining, and people are just getting to the point where they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. So this particular person wrote an article, that says about, as a demographic shift, well-meaning white people often ask her how they could be a good neighbor if they move into a black or Latina neighborhood. And her simple advice was this: be a good neighbor, like our neighbor that we have in my community, a good neighbor. That means don't come in with a savior mentality hitched to your moving truck. Don't start your own block club or community organization. Join the existing one. Smile and say good morning to your neighbors. Don't write off the neighborhood schools. Understand the cultural fabric of the new place you call home, and don't call the police. So, we're talking about this today, and, we'll have some conversation around it and what does it look like for you in your particular neighborhoods, because it has not always been easy. The other thing we're going to talk about is black women and our roles that are shifting in corporate America, that we are gaining. We're higher earners, income earners, and still in single homes, because there's been this shift around us, if we're making too much money, we can't possibly settle for anything else. And I have to have a conversation with my sisters around that, because we are now just about the most degreed group in the country. And that may mean that the brothers that are there, waiting for us in the wings and wanting to be good, solid mates for us may not have the same amount of degrees. But it's not about that so much, but the love that we carry in our hearts for each other, right? And that a good relationship is decided upon how we treat one another, because if he's got your back and you've got his, good things can happen, versus you looking at him going, you don't make enough money, you don't have enough degrees, I can't deal with you. We've got to cut that crap, just really do. The third thing that I wanted to talk with you about, and we're really going to have a conversation around this, is self-defense when we have issues going on in our communities where we have to protect ourselves. We have a guest speaker coming in about that. But this morning, on this show right now, is someone who I met years ago when she first became the very first chief defender for Montgomery County in its entire history. I think it was almost 100 years at that point when she became the chief defender for Montgomery County. And I remember walking into a room and being introduced to Kira Bradford Gray. And I looked at her and I said, okay. What struck me about her more than anything else was she was humble. she's remained that. She was very open and inviting to people to come to the table to work with her. She remains that way. But I instinctively knew as a community member that she was going to need support. And so she and I sat down and we talked. And I walked away from her and I said to myself, they have no idea. They are going to think that she's a pushover, and they have no idea what they're dealing with. And Keir Bradford Gray in Montgomery County began some tangible changes with community support with the NAACP, and we had the first ever where people would come and get their expungement clinic, very first expungement clinic. And I remember thinking we held it at Arcadia with Dr. Laurie and NAACP members and the Com Society. And I remember walking in that day, and Keir had her lawyers sitting there waiting for people to show up. And we thought, nobody is going to come. And oh my goodness, the amount of people that quietly came and said, I've been waiting to get this expungement done quietly because I had X, Y, and Z when I was 19, 20 and couldn't figure out that piece. She also worked with the district attorney in Montgomery County to make sure that they were working together to make sure that, you know, everybody got a fair shake and a fair trial. And she wanted to bring to light the public defender's office, which no one ever really paid attention to. Fast forward to recently, Keir became the chief defender, public defender for Philadelphia, which is the 5th largest defenders association in the country. And I was talking to her maybe about 3-4 months ago, and I said, Keir, you know, people still don't know what the Defenders Association does. They just don't. It just kind of seems like it's a thing we turn to when all else is lost and we can't figure out where else to go. And I said to her, I first went to the publisher of the Sunday Sun, and I said, would you mind if I wrote a piece about the Defenders Association? I got the green light for that. And then Keir and her 530, how many employees she had in her office that day, welcomed me in, and I sat in there for hours and wrote a piece about the Defenders Association and what we were missing as people in the city of Philadelphia and all that they brought to the table. Oh my goodness. So when the Sean Challenger trial happened with Michael White, and Keir decided that she was going to step in as the chief defender to support this young man and to help with his trial, I knew this was going to turn out the way that it did. Others may not have known because Keir has always sat in the quietly in the corner and has done her work with due diligence. She was asked several times to run for office and leave her post, and she kept saying, and I sat in rooms where she said, I am here to do a job. I am here for the people of the city. I am not walking away for another position until I feel that my work is done here. So I'm so proud of her. And so this morning, I'd like you to welcome Chief Public Defender Keir Bradford Gray. Good morning, my sister.
Good morning, and thank you for that amazing introduction.
Listen, you know, I wanted the listeners to understand that we just didn't know each other in passing, right?
No.
That there was a history here, that you proved yourself from Montgomery County all the way into Philadelphia. So when you became the chief public defender, the first question was, how can we, the people, support you? And so writing that piece was just, I think it has now opened, after the trial, the Michael White trial, more people are sharing that article because now more people understand the value of the Defenders Association, how much you value the lawyers that work with you, right? And how hard you all work, right?
I can't thank you enough for that. Just understanding so much about our work and our practice to get so intricately involved that you said, listen, the public needs to hear this, and I don't even know what's going on, how many layers and the depth of your work that we have working for people in this community. And I mean, my parents were like ecstatic about your article, and I was too, because it was the first time that our work had been explained that thoroughly. Yeah. And so I really thank you for that.
You're welcome. And I'm glad now in retrospect that I spent all those hours in your office and that we wrote that piece, because now people are going back to take a second look, right, about what the Defenders Association does. I sat at my dinner table with a lot of folks and I said, look, go down there and offer to support, help in any way that you can, right? Show up so that people can, when they have a case coming up and they don't know what to do, walk into those free offices where they're set up so people can get support. So there's a lot that I want to talk to you about. I hope you have a little bit of time.
Yeah, anything for you.
Man, I am so stoked I can't even begin to tell you. So one of the things that I'm not sure that people are aware of about about you is that you were not born and raised in Philadelphia, right? So can you talk a little bit about what brought you here and how did you end up getting into law?
Oh, man. So I got a athletic scholarship to go to school in Georgia. And I didn't want to go. I'm a little girl from Boston. I didn't want to go to Georgia, but my mom's like, you got a free ride, you're going. So I go there, and, you know, I always never really knew that I always wanted to be a lawyer, but never knew that I could be a lawyer. I just had that naivete thinking, okay, I don't really know anyone who's a lawyer, so how am I going to get there? But when I got to Georgia, there were so many African-American professionals that I had just not been accustomed to in Boston. And I really just kind of talked to them and asked them questions like, how could I do what you do? And they were very open, and it was an environment. I went to an HBCU, so it was an environment that cared about me, that nurtured me, and that really gave me the confidence I needed to go out into that world that was unknown to me and say, I can do this. And so from there, I met a teacher named Neota Tucker, like one of the sharpest professors ever. She was a lawyer in Georgia, and I literally just emulated her. I wanted to be like her, and professionally, of course, I always want to be like my mom, because that's but professionally, I wanted to be like her, and she just showed me the way. I applied, and voila, here we are. I knew when I wanted to start my career, I wanted to go to a place that trained me how to be an amazing trial lawyer. And I was doing my research. The Defender Association of Philadelphia had a stellar reputation for raising trial lawyers, and so I thought I'd just come here, go to the Defender, get me some experience, and go back to Boston. But I came here, I met my husband at the Defender Association, and the rest was history. Yeah, he was the public defender. The Honorable Dane Gray was a public defender.
I had no idea, and I'm sure many of your listeners didn't know that either. Shout out to Dane. All right. Yeah. Go ahead.
So, I mean, this is how the journey began. But when I got here, I'll tell you, Andrea, I wanted to come here to learn how to be a trial lawyer. When I got here, I realized there was so much more going on to this field of indigent defense. It's not just criminal defense. It is civil rights. It is movement making. It is calling. It is passion. It is commitment. And it was that, I mean, the people and the mentality here that really trained me, helped me understand. I knew it because obviously I came from the inner city. So it wasn't lost on me that people in inner cities, black and brown people, are treated far more harshly in this system, differently, and a lot of biased decision-making goes into why they end up and fare out the way they do. It wasn't lost on me. I never really thought that my voice was strong enough to change that at that time. And I would watch my mentors go into that courtroom and be fearless advocates, you know, and sometimes get good results and sometimes not, but it just became my passion and commitment saying, I am going to do my best to turn this tide around. I don't know what it's going to take, but I feel it. I feel it in my bones that this is where I'm supposed to be, because I am supposed to help expose injustices and right the wrongs so we don't have those Central Park 5 cases. We don't have those lives that are destroyed forever. Even though they're restored now, that can never be given back to them. What the mental anguish they went through, you know, just watching that stuff, looking at Corey Wise and looking at all that he's gone through, will he ever be the same person? No amount of money can give him the peace that he had lost. And I said, and I see it every day, and you know when I was in that room, that I see this every day. I see people that I know, they're not bad people, and they're being cast in a certain way. I just can't leave. I can't leave until I figure out how we can utilize this office's resources and connect with the public so they understand the civil rights movement that we're in.
How old were you when you decided this, Kier?
Oh, shoot. Let me... So I came here, I was about 23 years old when I came to Philadelphia, and I just knew that I was just going to be a trial lawyer. I'd say about 2 years later, I knew that I wanted to be a civil rights trial lawyer. Oh, wow.
Thank God for you, because if you didn't, I don't know what would have happened now. Okay, so has the journey to this place been an easy one for you? And I'm asking you these questions on purpose because I want people show up when there's the glory, right?
Yeah.
No one really knows the story. And if we learn more about what it takes to get to where you are particularly, then we may have more trial lawyers, right, that are working on behalf of the injustices that are going on in this country right now. What was the journey like for you to this place where you are chief defender in Philadelphia, the 5th largest defenders association in the country?
Let me tell you, I mean, I've been so blessed. I don't think I've ever planned out all of this that I would be involved in now. I never saw myself as being worthy of being the chief defender of Philadelphia. I was here as a trial lawyer, and all I ever wanted to do was do my best as a trial lawyer, and I was pretty successful as a trial lawyer. But, you know, successful as a public defender doesn't get you any headlines. You just have personal gratification knowing that you've helped enhance someone's life or save someone's life. And that was a lot for me. My salary wasn't that great, so it wasn't like I had a lot of things or opportunities to, you know, indulge in the finer things in life. So there was, like, you know, serious trade-offs to doing this work. While I had tremendous, you know, career gratification, I really struggled raising kids and trying to provide for them, putting them in schools and educating them the way I wanted to. So at a certain point, after 8 years here at the Defender Association of Philadelphia, an opportunity to join the federal defender in Delaware came up. And I said to myself, man, I want to advance my career. I want to make more money, but I can't commute to Delaware every day from where I live, which is near Mount Airy, and with 2 small children. My children were 6 and 4 years old at the time. And I got every kind of, you know, negative discussion from every mentor I ever had. You can't do that commute. It's an hour and a half each way. Who's going to take care of the kids? And me and my husband had to sit down and had to say, look, where there's a will, there's a way. And it was tough. It was not easy, and I think I spent all my little raise on gas going back and forth to Delaware, and babysitters helping me with the children sometimes when my husband and I both had commitments. So it was so much sacrifice to just for faith that I would be able to do something bigger. This would be larger than me at some point. And I don't know what it was, but I always said that in my head. I always said, if I do what I need to do, if I keep at this pace where I am learning my craft, I am working on it, I'm getting better at it, I am really, people are thanking me for saving their lives. There's something else that's coming. I didn't know what that was. And one day I'm sitting in my office minding my business, Andrea, and I mean minding my business. And I get a phone call from a person that says, hi, I'm on Josh Shapiro's transition team. We're in search for a new chief defender of Montgomery County, and your name's been mentioned, and we'd like for you to apply. And I'm thinking it's some prank. I'm thinking it's my office mates because they always like to mess with me. And I'm like, what? Montgomery County? I've only been to King of Prussia Mall. Like, I don't know much about Montgomery County other than the amazing malls that they had. I almost talked myself out of it. I almost talked myself out of the growth and where that would take me because I was so comfortable.
Yes. And we're going to talk about that comfort piece, boy, and what it requires to push past that, right? It's almost like, yes, right. Listen, when I got the call to come and do this, to guest host this radio show, I had the same conversation with myself, right? Well, I'm not done this a lot. You know, I don't know who's going to listen, the whole 9 yards. But it was really pushing me outside of my comfort zone. So I understand to a certain degree what you're talking about.
And
because
we as women do that
all the time. Listen, we're going to go on a break. I want you to stay here with me because we're going to come back and talk about the case.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Black Talk Media, 96.1 FM, 900 AM. Toll free to 1-866-361-0900, 215-634-8065. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders and your guest host for today for The Source.
Get your money straight.
Get my money right.
With Solomon Jones and Akbar Hassan.
Fridays on Wake Up with Word.
7 a.m. till 10 a.m. Hosted by Solomon Jones. Exclusively on Word Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Streaming live on wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
The following alert is from AARP, Pennsylvania. Attention listeners, con artists posing as Federal Trade Commission workers are calling people about the Do Not Call registry. They may ask you to enroll, confirm, or renew your phone number on the registry. They're collecting personal information such as your social security number, which the real registry does not require, so they can access your bank account. Learn more about AARP and what they're doing to protect consumers right here in Philadelphia. Visit aarp.org/Philadelphia.
Hi everybody, this is Nick inviting you to buy your next car from Jerry and the fellows over at Cardex. See, they're not dealers. They're like a car concierge service. They design a car around you. Almost any make. If it's not on the lot, they'll go out and get it for you. So use my car concierge, where I've already bought 4 cars. Cardex at 116 East Glenside Avenue in Glenside, Pennsylvania. Check them out online at cardexinc.com or call Cardex at 215-886-3230.
Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM. WURD.
I want to go to college, but I want to make sure my degree leads to a career that pays well and is in demand.
Me? Well, I want to earn a bachelor's degree, but I worry that I won't be able to afford it.
Are you ready to get started on your path to a degree or future career? Community College of Philadelphia's programs are a direct path to today's most sought-after careers. If you're interested in earning your bachelor's degree, spend the first 2 years at Community College of Philadelphia and earn that degree for less, much less. Affordable tuition, payment plans, and opportunities for financial assistance make it possible for you to pursue your goals. With multiple locations throughout the city and your choice of day, evening, weekend, and online classes, you're sure to find something that fits your schedule. Start your success story with us this spring. Join us on main campus for an open house on Monday, October 28th from 5 to 7 p.m. or apply now for spring classes at ccp.edu. Spring classes start January 13th.
You're listening to The Source
on Word Radio,
96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Welcome back to The Source, Black Talk Media. 215-634-8065. We'd like to hear from you because we have on the air with us this morning none other than Chief Public Defender Kira Bradford Gray. Kira, are you with us?
I'm here.
Oh, so listen, I have to share this with you. Kayla told me, excuse me, child, this allergy is getting to me. Kayla told me that she met you in the line at the Kimmel Center. That's the producer here.
Oh.
And you were so cool. She had no idea who you were till like a week later.
Well, thank you.
And I said to her, but that's Kier, right? No pretenses, no, do you know who I am? None of those things, which is what endears you to so many people. So, you know, I just want to let you know that short story.
Oh, Kayla, I said thank you.
Yeah, well, she says thank you, Kayla. Anyway, so, you know, we're back to the place. Now, when we last were talking, you talked about taking the risks to go to Delaware, that you openly communicated with your husband around what would that mean. You found your compromises, and even though it was difficult, you did what you were supposed to do, right? And I want people to hear that, because you can't get to where you need to be without taking certain risks. It doesn't just the opportunities will come, but the opportunities will also leave if you don't do what you're supposed to do. So by the time you got the call from Montgomery County and you showed up, we had no idea who you were. All we knew was there's a black woman coming. There's a black woman coming.
You know what? I don't think I can underestimate the power of a village.
Yes.
Because honestly, I got to Montgomery County and I didn't really know many people. And just the fact that you guys embraced me and wrapped your arms around me the way you did really helped me navigate that system out there and just the environment. And I needed that. And I told you from the beginning, I can't thank you enough for how much you supported me, but also how much you helped guide me in navigating Montgomery County, where it was like a foreign land.
Listen, a foreign land, and even the people who lived there for years on end still are trying to navigate. But you did. You listened, and you did what you were supposed to do. So when the opportunity came for you to become the chief defender for Philadelphia, what were your thoughts around that? What did that look and feel like for you?
This is how my life works. This is how crazy it is. So I'm at my desk again in minding my own business, and I get a phone call, and it's somebody anonymous that came to my the front desk, transferred it back to me, and the person said, "Ellen Greenlee's retiring. You better get your resume together and get your credentials in now." Click.
Wow.
And I said, "What? Who is that?" So I went to the administrator. I'm like, "Did that person leave a name, or did you have a phone number?" It had come from this office, but we couldn't figure out who it was. And so I said, "Whoa, Alan Greenlee's retiring from the Defender Association. Man, that is where it all started. That's home. If I'm really serious about this, I need to go for it." I honestly thought, and I was told by a lot of people, it was a long shot for me. And the funny part is I was the only one that was running in office, but it was a long shot for me and not for the other people that applied.
So let's go back and clarify that. You were the only one who was already a chief defender that applied for this position, but it was a long shot for you.
It was told to me directly. I wasn't ready. It was a long shot. But if you're serious about it one day, even if you don't get it this time, you may be considered some other time.
And so the moral of the story is what, Kier?
Never doubt.
Hello.
Never doubt yourself. People may not see what you may see in yourself, and sometimes you have to have that own inner understanding of who you are and what makes you tick. But, after some point, I used to be the person that listened to a lot of people's opinions of who I was or who I wasn't. After me going to Montgomery County and navigating that, I found myself. I found that I could do, even if I was fearful of what I didn't have, muscle would fill in those gaps. And I said, I've done that throughout my life. I went to Georgia and I played sports for college. From Georgia, I went to Ohio and navigated, law school there. After that, I went to Philadelphia and navigated life here. I can do this. And so I had to believe in myself because I didn't get a lot of people that instilled that belief in me at the time that I was applying.
Wow. So let's move forward to the Schellinger case. We have to talk about it.
Yes.
Because while many of us knew who you were long before this case stepped into the limelight, you became someone now people are looking at, and asking questions. Tell the listening audience why, because it is almost unheard of that chief public defenders step in to co-try a case, right? How often is that done in the country? Are you aware?
Only one time, one person, and he's the late Jeff Adachi in San Francisco, who represented a guy who Trump had cast as a immigrant who was a murderer and a killer. And Jeff Adachi just passed away last year, rest his soul, but he was one of my heroes. I mean, I always said, man, this guy is running an office, and said, forget that, I'm going to step down off my post and do what I believe. So I knew while people shun this idea of chief defenders stepping down from their posts and stepping in to do the trial work that they've always done before, some things just pull at your heartstrings, and you're saying, I can't sit back and not be involved in this. And that was this case. I mean, Michael, I'll tell you, from the moment we got this case and I saw this young man looking like a deer in headlights, I saw my son. And that, that drove me. My son, oh, my God, if he was ever in a situation where he needed help, I'd want somebody to jump in and fight like heck for him. And when I saw this young man and I showed his picture to my daughter, she said, "Aw." And that right there validated what I was feeling. And she said, "Mom, he looks like," and we call my son Trey, he looks like Trey. I know. At that time, I still didn't make up my mind that I was going to do it, but I felt like I wanted to. I wanted to do more. And so I know this is going to sound very weird. at the time that we had done this preliminary hearing and we were able to secure bail, I called the bail funds and I asked the bail funds, could they help get him out? And they did. And this is how the village came together. Reuben Jones and all these other nonprofit organizations called national headquarters, and they secured $15,000 to get him out. After that, he began, not too long after that, working at Uncle Bobby's coffee and bookshop.
Yep, because I saw him when I walked in there one day. I didn't let him know that I knew who he was, but I watched him for a good 45 minutes. Kind, gentle, well-mannered. Most people didn't know who he was, but there was a level of uncertainty. You could almost see that he was trying to not have attention, drawn to him. But when you spoke with him, he was just, I saw my children, right?
Yes.
And I was like,
that's what we as black women saw when we saw him. And I mean, the weird part is like Ava DuVernay is masterful. That title was masterful, and it's real because it's not just words, it's reality. And when I saw him, what I saw was not what was being narrated. I'm glad you said that you watched him because I did too. I did. I don't want to feel like a stalker, but I was sitting there, and when I would go to Uncle Bobby's and just kind of do some work, I would see him and I would watch him, watch mannerisms, watch how he handled people. He was, like you said, charming, very even-keeled, mild-mannered. I mean, I didn't see a ruse out of him. And finally I said to him, I'm going to go up and tell him and introduce myself and say, I said, hi, Michael, I'm Keir Bradford Gray. And he put his head down immediately. And I said, don't put your head down. I said, we're going to help you. We're going to help you. And he just shook his head. He was like, almost he had this shame and embarrassment. And I mean, you can see the sensitivity in his eyes. And I said, well, we're going to have to get to know each other more. And at that point, I decided to ask my team if they would mind if I came into the case. And graciously, our chief of homicide, Dan Stevenson, said, you know what? That sounds like the best idea. He's bottled up. He hasn't opened up a lot. Maybe you can get him to open up. And I know Michael was sick of seeing me, but I made him be my best friend for about a month and a half. I went to Uncle Bobby's. I picked him up. When he would see me, he would look like, oh, not you. And I'm like, you know what? I'm getting ready to be your legal mom for this. And we sat and we talked. And at first, we just talked about him. I just needed to get to know him and share with him a little bit about me until we got comfortable with each other to talk about the facts, which he hated talking about. Every time we went into it, he would withdraw. And I said, Michael, you cannot withdraw. We have to talk about it. We have to get through this. And finally, we got there. And we got there in a nick of time because, honestly, we were going over this the day before he testified. And, his truth finally came out. He never had a chance to tell his side, and I'm glad he did.
Wow, Keir. There's so much I want to ask you.
This trial was crazy, Andrea. I mean, I don't think we could even make up what happened to this trial. You go ahead and ask whatever you need.
So I can't pretend to know as a layperson what you were going through as it led up, the days led up to the trial. But what I can say is that as a mother of two brown boys and watching Michael White and knowing that the odds were against him, what were you thinking as the trial began? What was in your head?
I will be honest with you. My stomach was in knots for the entire time. It was the most pressure I'd ever felt representing anyone because it meant more to me than just representing a client. It was, I'm representing my son. I'm representing someone who I believe in, who I like, who I want to champion. And I felt a tremendous amount of pressure to myself. I was saying, are you crazy? What are you doing? Why are you in this case? Because everyone kept saying to me, you've got nothing to gain and everything to lose. And people would come up to me and say, well, what if you lose? And I had to tell some people, you don't try cases if you're losing.
Wow.
And so I think I'm glad now that I just stuck to my senses and said, I don't know. This is started in my heart, not my head. I got to do this. And we got to talk about a little bit about the case because it was like the most bizarre. The most bizarre things happened in that trial.
Like what?
So, I mean, well, first of all, I will tell you this. As I started watching that video, and I'm glad someone caught some of it on video, everyone had always thought Michael drove that knife into Mr. Skellinger's back. When I saw that video and I kept looking at him like, he didn't do that. I don't see that. So I reached out to an expert. I said, listen, my eyes are seeing something differently. Maybe I have rose-colored glasses, but everyone seems to think that he drilled that knife in his back. I said, can you please give me your expert opinion? This is a guy who was well-traversed in biometrics. Well, he looked at that video and he saw what I saw, and he said, no, the inertia of the way this guy attacked him and fell to the ground made them tumble over, and he fell on the
knife. Wow.
And when I showed Mike that video and explained to him, you know what Mike did? And I almost teared. Mike looked at me and said, oh, my God, all this time they made me think I did that. That's what he said. And my heart almost ripped.
Wow.
It was like, whoa. Now, how are we going to do this? Because it's not as clear to the naked eye.
Right.
It really wasn't, because the video was very poor quality. It was in 4 seconds. I mean, the actual attack and, how he got stabbed happened in 4 seconds. So your eyes can play tricks on you, and you can see what your mind is predisposed to thinking. And so it wasn't like clear cut, like, okay, that was going to solve the case. Two, I went in late with the expert report, and we weren't able to get the expert in. So I said, oh, man, how are we going to bring this to light? I'm going to have to walk this jury through it and hope they see what I see.
Wait a minute. So after you got the expert, you still weren't able to use that person?
No.
Shut up.
We weren't.
Wow.
And so we opted to go forward with the trial because we knew we had people that our investigators went to Florida to understand the types of aggressive acts, which the law allows you to bring in acts of aggression to show that this person was the initial aggressor. The Skellingers had said that we were trying to smear his name, Sean's name, with something he did years ago. That's not why we put that evidence up. The law says if you are claiming that you are not the initial aggressor, and there are acts of aggression that the person who you're saying was the initial aggressor had done, the law allows you to bring that in under character evidence to show this person has a propensity for aggressive action. And so that's why we brought that in. Not to say, 11 years ago he did something, so now 11 years later. It's to say he acted in conformity with his character.
Right.
And so our investigators went down to Florida, combed Florida in the eye of a storm. This is when they were having a hurricane. Wow. And they found these people that were willing to come, that still remember the incident. They didn't know Mike. They didn't know any of us. And one woman who knew Sean was his friend, who knew how he was when he, had consumed a good amount of alcohol, said to us, it's the right thing to do. And then another guy was a bouncer. He was getting ready to be deployed. He's actually deployed now to the armed forces. And he said, I still have the scar. I want to testify, because if that young man met who I met, then it needs to be heard.
Wow. Wow.
So,
wow.
And I can't tell you about this little impromptu expert testimony by Mark Lamont Hill that went on.
No, I didn't hear about that. He was there?
Oh, my God, Andrea. So we're in this, in the midst of trial, and the district attorney decides they want to comb through Mike's cell phone. Now, this is a young kid's cell phone. He's got everything in the world in it. Find this one thing in his notes, right? Because he's got a lot of notes. He's a poet. He does rapping and all this stuff. And he wanted to bring out some rap lyrics. And, we know rap and your real persona are two different things.
Right.
So there's one thing in this note that he wrote, and it says, like, I ain't even like that, nah. Piss me off, you'll get cut. They wanted to say that meant that he was going to stab and kill someone.
Wow.
And I said, are you serious? This is, the word cut has so many meanings. I cut you with words, I'll cut you off. Mike even said, I meant cut you off. But it wasn't common knowledge, and I was afraid that a jury may go with what the DAs were pushing, that meant that he was going to stab someone, and that he was going to randomly run into people where he was going to get the opportunity to do that and do it, which was ridiculous.
All right, so hold on, Kier, because I'm still holding on to you because we still have so much to talk about.
Yes, we got to talk about Mark Lamont Hill.
Yes, we do. So, Black Talk Media, 215-634-8065. I'm talking to Chief Public Defender Kier Bradford Gray. If you'd like to talk to her or you have any questions or you have comments, please call us, 1-866-361-0900. This is WURD. I'm Andrea Lawful Sanders, your guest host for The Source.
Brothers and sisters! Don't miss The Source.
Weekdays 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
on WURD Radio.
WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Just one more step. You got it.
You're doing great. This is the sound of a nationally ranked top rehabilitation hospital, home to the largest collection of robotics in the United States, where we continually exceed patient expectations. Because no injury is too severe or too minor for our care.
There you go.
This is the sound of success. Moss Rehab. Challenge accepted.
Exit Zero International Jazz Festival will return to Cape May, New Jersey this November, featuring another great season of award-winning jazz music. Among the many performers include stage headliners Manhattan Transfer meets Acapella Sextet Take 6 on Friday, November 8th, The War and Treaty on Saturday, November 9th, and The Messenger Legacy, Art Blakey Centennial Celebration on Sunday, November 10th. You will experience multiple indoor and outdoor stages and other performers, including David Sanborn, Joan Oates, Gerald Veasley, and many more. Visit ExitZeroJazzFestival.com for lineup and ticket information.
Support independent black media and join the Forward movement now at 215-425-7875
Or visit WURDradio.com.
You're listening to The Source
on WURD Radio.
96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Welcome back to WURD. This is The Source. I'm Andrea Lawful Sanders, your guest host for this morning. And if you are just joining us, we are literally talking to the Chief Public Defender of Philadelphia, Kier Bradford Gray, and this interview is riveting. I hope you're on the line. I hope you're calling because I want you to really talk to us and to talk to Kier about, what's been going on here as she tried this case. So, Kier, are you still here with us, darling? Kier? Are you still here?
I'm here.
All right. So, listen. Tell me about Mark Lamont Hill. First of all, let me just say thank you. You've given me a good 40 minutes of your time, and I can't even appreciate you enough for it because people are listening, and Kayla is over here saying things that she didn't know happened at the trial because, we only get the sound bites in the news reports, right?
Yeah.
And I deliberately stayed away from the trial because, my facial expressions, I can't. So I was just hoping that I would hear more about it, but you're telling us things we didn't know anything about. All right, so tell me about Mark Lamont Hill and what happened?
So as I was saying about the note that he wrote, it was, a play on words as to what he meant. And this is this is when I talk about when they see us. What do they think when they see us that may drive their perception of what we mean, or if we use, slang or use just, African-American, poetic, metaphoric talk. Mm-hmm. So the judge was very fair with that, with our ability, and I argued, and my co-counsel, Jonathan Strange, I can't tell you, this guy's a legal beast. He wrote a motion precluding them from using rap lyrics and put in the fact that Bruce Springsteen himself uses language that don't suggest that it's his character. And so that the judge said, no, you can't use rap lyrics, but I'll let you use this little note. Mm-hmm. And, Ms. Bradford Gray, I'll let you bring in your expert if you have one. Well, lo and behold, I'm looking in that audience, and I had Mark Lamont Hill. He was there for a character witness. And I locked eyes with him, and I said, I got an expert juror on her. And I'm like, who better than Mark Lamont Hill, right?
Absolutely.
So I go over to him. I said, listen, I really need you as an expert on African-American culture and discussion and poetry and, all the things that you study. So I said, can you come out in the hallway with me? We go out for 5 minutes, and I ask him, you know this stuff. Can you tell me all you know? And you know Mark. He rattled off everything.
Yes, he did.
I study it. I write books. I lecture on it. I said, okay, gotcha. We put him up on the stand, and he starts to describe different meanings for the metaphoric word cut in his studies and his understanding, because he studied slam poetry, he was a part of the slam poetry movement here in Philadelphia, and he competed nationally at UC. So this boy was really, really into the creative arts. And so when he talked about it, and he talked about the different meanings to that word, he also made reference to a famous song, Cut It, and he said, well, and that song was not really about killing anybody or harming anyone. It was actually about prices being too high. I said, this guy, Mark, he cannot. I just love Mark Lamont Hill.
Isn't he?
For it to be that impromptu, him to know his craft so well, to explain it to that jury the way he needed to, you could not predict these things. And that's why trial is like, you always got to be on your toes. I mean, it's a very stressful thing because it is never predictable.
Right. Wow. Oh, and so when it went to the jury,
yes,
and he was found not guilty, what were your immediate thoughts? The first thing that you thought when you heard not guilty, and then in the days, since, because it's now Tuesday, 4 or 5 days later, tell me your immediate thoughts when you first heard not guilty, and how are you feeling now?
Oh, when we were on pins. I was holding Mike's hand. I think I was squeezing his hand so tight when the jury walked out. I think I was hurting him. He didn't even know. He didn't say anything, but I clutched his hand like I was going to break it. And as soon as they said not guilty, I let out a sigh of relief and let his hand go. And me and my co-counsel, Jonathan Strange, just started hugging because we knew how much that was on us, and we knew that we wanted to do this for Mike. He deserved it. He deserves a future because what happened was not a malicious act on his part. It was an unfortunate situation and still is. But I'll tell you, Andrea, that day when I sat there with you and other people and said, I can't leave, saying, I'm not finished what I started at the Defender Association. I never knew what that was, but something just told me, you need to be at the Defender Association. And I thought it was all the other criminal justice reform things. I feel in my heart it was this.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I remember sitting in that room that evening, and you were just being taken to task. Why can't you? Philadelphia needs you to do this and da-da-da-da-da, and you just held your ground. That was the day when my thoughts about you shifted from a cool sister to this right here. She is the real deal. Because you know me, Kier. You understand. Listen, I don't suffer fools lightly. I don't hang around with just about anybody, right? Because, you've got to be about civil rights. You've got to be about thinking about other people other than yourself. You've got to be someone who is about social justice. That's just where I come from. So when you did that, when you sat in that room that day, and I knew when you walked out, they were going to have some things to say. But I admired your tenacity and for standing your ground. Imagine if you were moved and swayed like lots of people, right? We think you would be the best person for this. Oh, yeah, you think I would be? I'm coming over there. And, you move before your time. Imagine if you had moved and the Michael White case came and you were somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right? In a time in the city where I was even thinking to myself, I don't know if anybody wants another black DA at this point because of all the things that had gone on before that, right? Yeah. So timing is everything. On behalf of the citizenry of Philadelphia, on behalf of the people who are watching you around the world, on behalf of your family, because I remember saying this to you, without your husband stepping up in the gap to fulfill what needed to happen so you could do what you would do, it took everybody, it took all the moving parts to get it to where it needed to be. So when I tell you I fully admire not just you, but your husband and everybody that is around you to help you to get to where you needed to be, not for you to to get accolades, but to save somebody's life.
Yeah.
And in a country and in a time where we hardly ever see this happening, right? Somebody of color goes to trial, like, well, you know, we know they're not going to get off. They might get like 5, 6, 10 years, but at least, you know. And so to see this happen at this particular time is, you know, life-shifting in so many ways. So thank you, Kier.
No, thank you.
Thank you for following your gut. Thank you for going with what you know is the right thing to do. Thank you for giving black people hope in this city. Thank you for all the mothers who have, you know, worried about their children on a weed charge that may end up for years. We still have people in prison for years for small amounts of, you know, drugs, you know, that have completely shifted their lives. We still have people in prison care who didn't commit the crime, but they're like, well, you fit the description of such and such and such and such. I want you to understand fully, wholly, what you did. When in all your unselfishness, when you saw that young man and saw your son, you saw all of our sons. You saw all of us.
I love it. When they see us.
Yes.
When we see us. What do we see when we see us?
Yes. And you have also become the lesson and the measuring stick for those of us who wants to go, well, you know, it's a black boy and maybe he shouldn't have. When are we allowed to be human?
I know.
When are we as people allowed to make mistakes? Everybody else can make mistakes. If Michael White had anything that would smirch his character, the child was just about perfect, as black children go.
And, you know, he wasn't perfect, but he was as perfect as we can get.
Absolutely. Right? And,
I mean,
right.
He had no criminal record. He had every element of character that one could. And I never am able to put up every element of character that the law allows.
Mm-hmm.
Michael had it. He was the opposite of what was being narrated.
Absolutely.
Opposite.
Yeah.
I could not. It could not have been narrated so wrongly. And I said to myself, do I have rose-colored glasses on? Am I like, is my heart too big for me to really see the reality? And I kept questioning myself. But no, this boy was exactly who I believed he was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, too often we allow ourselves to be talked out of the good we see in our black children.
Yeah.
Right, and buy into the stereotypical things that are being said about them. Well, if the cop broke his hand, he must have done something for it to happen.
Yeah.
You know, our children just can never be innocent. Their innocence are taken away long before they become 10.
And I hope this becomes something that we do keep talking about, because our young black boys, their behaviors are seen more accountable, more punishable than their other counterparts who are just child's playing, or it's just, you know, immaturity, and they can grow out of it. And honestly, I am tired of the double standard. I have a son, and I don't want him to have to be treated more harshly just because of who he is.
I agree, Kier. I agree. Thank you so much.
Can I give one shout-out for the Defender event? And I'm sorry to do this. Look, we've been working on bail reform, and we, meaning the defenders, have been doing this for a while, working with community and building up a strong community support called pre-entry. Playing off the word re-entry, it's called pre-entry. It's really using services on the front end to really solve problems so that the criminal justice system doesn't need to when it's the right situations. We are having a big launch of this concept, and all of the community supporters and programs that are in this city that we've invited to be a part of our pre-entry coalition. And it's on November 14th at Community College, Philadelphia Community College, or CCP, was that Community College Philadelphia, starting at networking receptions from 5:30 to 6, and the actual event, the actual panel discussion and kind of TED Talk will be from 6 to 7:30.
And is the public invited?
Absolutely. We're going to start promoting it. Hania Sharp-Brown, one of our promoters right now, she's going to start putting it out there. But we want to really change the understanding of how we handle or do things in our criminal justice system. We used to put people in, let them languish, and then figure out what they need. Well, that made people more desperate. And if we want to really lift people out of poverty and crime and desperation, we need to be more sensible by how we use our criminal justice resources.
I agree. And when you get off this phone and you're in your office, I'm not sure where you are right now, please let the Defenders Association, all those people that you work with, because I've met quite a few of them.
And they love you.
Tell them I said thank you. So Marva said thank you. I saw them working on behalf of children on that one floor, the social workers, I mean, it's a family affair in there.
And we got a new position, a community liaison policy woman. She's amazing, Kate Parker.
All right now.
Under Jill Biden, And she came to join us not because she needed the job, but because it was her passion, and she wanted to be here, and she's awesome. She's going to bring so much to our community collaboration. I'm excited about that. Shout out to our city council for recognizing that if they did not fund our office properly and give us the resources we needed, this type of justice wouldn't be possible. So I appreciate the new understanding of what a defender association, having a defender organization in your city can bring to a real sensible approach and a new dynamic of what we want for our city as it relates to crime and poverty and justice.
Oh, Kier, I could talk to you forever. Shout out to Kate Parker. I know. And thank you to the City Council for doing what you need to do. We have some callers that we're going to take when we get back from the break. But, Kier, I cannot thank you enough. I hope we have people that are talking about this once you leave here and do what you have to do. Have a great day, my sister. I'll catch up with you soon, okay?
Love you.
Love you, too. Bye-bye. As we go to a break, 215-634-8065. To our callers that are online, please hold. We will get back to you as soon as we come from this break. This is Black Talk Media. I'm Andrea Lawful Sanders, and this is The Source.
Brothers and sisters! Don't miss The Source.
Weekdays 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
on WURD Radio.
WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
At Dietz & Watson, we've spent over 75 years focusing on the details. This can be traced back to our founder, Gottlieb Dietz, who learned how to make franks and sausages the right way in Germany. Today, each one of our delicious offerings is meticulously crafted using perfected details. Because if it isn't good enough for our family, it isn't good enough for yours. To us, the details make all the difference.
Did you miss me? Well, I'm coming back to the airwaves, y'all. Every Saturday, starting November 2nd, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., the Rapping Professor, bringing the truth into context like nobody else. We're going to turn up, and the turn up is 1 p.m. starting November 2nd. That's right, 1 p.m. November 2nd, the return of the Rapping Professor. You're turning up with word, y'all.
You know your body, and lately something doesn't feel quite right. You get plenty of sleep, but you're always tired. Sometimes the ache in your joints is so bad you can barely make it through the day. You push through. Sound familiar? These could be signs of lupus. It's time to pay attention. We're here to help you take control. Learn how at BeFierceTakeControl.org. Brought to you by the Lupus Foundation of America and CDC.
This is your Congressman, Dwight Evans. Are you angry about Donald Trump? Trump is attacking our civil rights, our health care, and even our right to vote. This year on November the 5th, Pennsylvania elects judges. And Trump is trying to take over our courts with his endorsed candidates. Let's send Trump a message and elect 2 Democratic judges to our statewide court, Amanda Green Hawkins and Dan McCaffrey. Amanda Green Hawkins has spent her life fighting for families and workers. Amanda fought for fairness as a councilperson and passed a law that protects employees from discrimination. Dan McCaffrey is a veteran and a judge from right here in Philadelphia. Dan is taking on tough fights, protecting women and children, and fighting for civil rights. I am proudly voting for these 2 Democrats for Superior Court, Amanda Green Hawkins and Dan McCaffrey. You have the power to send a message on November 5th. So make your voice heard. Stand up to Trump. Vote.
Paid for by the Pennsylvania Democratic Party, authorized by Amanda for Judge.
We are
Progressive and proud and interactive.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at onWURD. This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Streaming live at WURDradio.com.
We will get stronger. We are not scared. We will last longer.
Welcome back to Black Talk Media. This is The Source, and I am your guest host, Andrea Lawful Sanders. If you have just joined us, or if you've been on the radio with us since we began at 10 o'clock, we just had a riveting conversation with the Chief Public Defender, Keir Bradford Gray. We have callers on the line, but I wanted to say something before we took the first one. When you talk about being a leader, there's a set of moral codes that has to come attached to it. Leadership does not mean having your name in lights, jumping up and down so that people can give you free seating, free tickets to go wherever you needed to go, or having your name in the news consistently. Leadership means that you make an incredible amount of sacrifices that people don't ordinarily see, right? As they're looking at you and doing what you need to do on behalf of more people than just yourself. And so I always challenge folks when they talk about, well, don't you know who I am? No, I don't want to know who you are. If you have to tell me who you are, then I don't need to know it, right? Leadership is humble. Leadership is standing in the gap for those who may not be able to stand in the gap for themselves. It's so many things other than what we've been seeing represented as leadership today. So I just want to thank you for listening. Thank you again, Keir Bradford Gray and the Defenders Association, for stepping in the gap for this young man and so many others where you have gone unnoticed over the years as you've done your best work. Thank you. So now we're going to line 1. Imani? Do we have Imani?
Miss Sanders, and I love the talk today. I love the message. Miss Grace, she's wonderful. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Good morning. How are you?
I am fantastic. Taking my marshmallow tea. I love it. God is good. He always bring you some good stuff, realm and all that good stuff, and get you running. We gotta be, flowing, you know what I mean? We got to get all that sticky gunk and all that, so we got to prune our garden, our inner garden. We got to prune it and get it clean. Yeah. So I'm saying, Jesus, hallelujah. And I want to say, I recognize we got to, I went to school 11 years, got my degrees and all that, but, if you don't have the love of God and showing the display of love of God in you, it doesn't mean a thing. Mm-hmm. And you won't grow anything in that garden, you know what I mean? And it had to be in the love of God to see how that's the power that God's love has, and to bring about, it grows things and blossoms. So the Caucasian man in South Philly, all those almost $3,000 or $2,600, 2,600 black folks in a garbage dump. I praise the Lord for him. People got the courage to stand up, and I wanted to say, like yesterday, the Vincent Thompson, at the police station, they got meetings they hold, and that the public can attend and address them too. I want to say that too. And I said one also add Miss Gray. She's such a wonderful, she take, she get in the footprints of the freedom fighters before her, and she keeps on with the mission, keeps the torch. You don't drop the torch, and that's a beautiful thing, and that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to drop the ball, and you can't fit in the shoes of your ancestors. That's the same thing. You don't even need to get up in the morning and go and read a book, because it was against the law for you to pick up a book and beat you in the head. Pick up a book. That's no small thing to know the King's language. It's not small. Don't take it lightly.
Yes.
Okay, it changes things. The word of love, the book of love, understand it, comprehend it. I want to say, Miss Gray, the last thing I want to say first, she reminded me of The Color Purple. You remember, I want to say Oprah. I don't know, I forgot.
Sophia.
Sophia. She said, she's trying to treat her the child like a little pet. So we got to deal with that. You know what I mean? Like a little pet. She said, what? I don't want to treat my child. No, we don't want that job. She said, told her, what you say, what you call me? She said, bam! And at the table, she's telling Sophia, she said, she got that love from Sophia. That love brought her back to what? She said, if you want to see him like a little blase punk, he would have been a man. He would have been somebody now.
Thank you so much, Miss Amani. I appreciate you. Have a good one. Line 2. Wait. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for waiting. Welcome to The Source. How may I help you?
I want to just share some light on the Michael White case. Mr. Sean, the developer. I don't know Sean's last name.
Schellinger.
But Shellington. The young lady, which was the head defense lawyer, was magnificent. And I will be the first to say that when I walked in that courtroom, I spent a week and a half in that courtroom. I would say, oh, wow, this boy has a public defender. He doesn't have a chance. But I'm going to tell you something. The performance and the defense that they put on,
yes,
it was like two titans.
Yes.
And they came out on top.
You know, Wick, can I say this to you? So there were so few of us who knew Keir Bradford Gray and what she was capable of. It warmed my heart so that the rest of you could see, right? Not only what she was capable of, but what the Public Defenders Association has been doing for decades. There has been a misnomer. There has been this conversation by far too many that says when they hear the term public defender, they're like, well, I might as well just kiss my behind goodbye because I'm going to jail, right? Not realizing that not only are the public defenders doing amazing work that no one talks about, they now have someone in the Philadelphia office who is doing things like a pre-entry big launch coalition program where, you know, at CCP on November 14th, for those of you who were in the courtroom, for those of you who were not in the courtroom, I would say go. I'm going to be there, right? Because as the general public, we can support the Defenders Association for so many of these cases, and so many of our people would not be in jail if we were able to do what we needed to do, and they'll tell us what we can do. So you were sitting in the courtroom, huh?
I was in the courtroom for a week and a half.
Wow.
And I do business all over this country. And I took out on my busy schedule to be there. Not because I was favorable to one side or the other. I was a neutral participant. And let me tell you something. The defense team put on such a case, it was magnificent. Yes. And I don't use that word and think that people are so great that they walk on water. But in this case, they were so on top of their game that anybody that had the time to take out of their busy schedule would have been so proud of these people. And I will say, I know her husband. Her husband and I have had some business dealings. And these people, and I hate to use that term, these people, that couple, that family, that husband and wife are committed to helping their people.
Yes, agreed. Absolutely agree. So when you
anybody.
walked, so I have a question for you, Wick. When you walked into the courtroom and you weren't quite sure how this was going to turn out, when you saw the public defender, when the case happened and as it was going on, what were your thoughts? Did you then start to believe in what the Defenders Association was doing? Have you now changed your mind about what the Defenders Association is about?
Yes, I did change my mind.
Good.
I changed my mind to say, you know what? People spend fortunes of having proper representation.
I agree.
This is someone that's able to get this type of defense that are poor people. And Michael White and his family were poor people. And, you know, there was a lot of things that was in play. The safe surrender gentleman that was there that I stayed close to throughout this entire trial, they did all the right steps to have Michael White turn himself in. Okay? It wasn't that the DA didn't have the ability to charge Michael White with a higher charge. There was no way he could charge him with a higher charge.
Right.
The evidence spoke for itself.
Yep.
And you know what was so ironic? Everybody that came up in the behalf of Michael White were Caucasian.
Really?
Okay? His teachers, his coach, he's in a portrait class. Everyone except for Mr. Lamont. Okay? Now, just the opposite was on Mr. Sean's behalf.
What does that
mean?
mean?
To where these people was up there crying. African Americans.
For Sean Challenger.
Yes, Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Sean.
Mm-hmm.
Crying on the witness stand, hugging one another when they got back to the gallery. These was black people. One woman said, "Oh, I know Mr. Sean like he was my son. He would never do nothing to hurt anybody."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is so, you have to see it for yourself. It's almost like the Rodney King.
Mm-hmm.
Don't believe your lying eyes or your ears.
Wow.
The truth came out in that courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I feel sorry, and I really don't think anyone ever should experience a death in their family, a young death, because I have experienced it myself.
Mm-hmm.
The mother has the right to be hurt
Mm-hmm.
and be in pain. But that entire gallery that was on the side of Mr. Sean was so disrespectful to the witnesses, was so disrespectful to the judge. To every time you turn around, the judge had to reprimand them in the courtroom.
Really?
See, I'm a participant in the city of Philadelphia because this is my city, just as much as anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
I have the right to go in any courtroom. I have the right to go in any council chamber. I have the right to do whatever a citizen has the right to do in this city.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to tell young people this. Don't go to the courtroom when you're in handcuffs. Don't go to the courthouse when you have done some violation. Go in the courtroom because you have the right to be in there because you're a citizen of Philadelphia.
Absolutely.
Get familiar with these procedures. You have young people sitting in the courtroom that don't have a clue what's going on.
Wow.
You have a young lady on the 9th floor on trial for murder for stabbing her boyfriend with a kitchen butcher knife. She didn't take a jury trial. She took a trial by judge.
Mm.
She doesn't know. She probably couldn't afford one.
Right. Right.
So we got to educate our young people. You don't have to be afraid of these big buildings downtown. You don't have to be afraid because people have financial success. You don't have to be afraid because someone tells you you're not welcome in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
Folks ask me, what part of the city you from, Wick? You know what I tell them? I'm from Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from every part of the city of this city. Every neighborhood. I grew up in every neighborhood. I walked every neighborhood. I don't have any problems.
So, Wick, let me ask you this, and then we have to go. You know, we have some other people online, but I'm really enjoying talking to you. You made a comment about the fact that we should just show up in court to see how the system works. You're absolutely right, because it's a great civics lesson there, right? And I am hoping, based on your comments and what I've heard from other people, as a result of this trial, that more people show up, right? That we show up for jury duty, that we don't consider it something that is a pain in the behind, you know, because it may cost somebody their life, right? When people, when you're in a court system and you're charged with something, you want people who can identify with your way of life, who you are culturally, to, you know, to understand what you're talking about. You heard Ms. Bradford Gray say, you know, they pulled up White's phone records and saw that he was writing a poem or a rap song, and they saw the word cut, and they immediately went to the fact that he was violent. Thank God Mark Lamont Hill was in the courtroom, right, to come in as an expert witness and say, nope, in our culture, that means X, Y, and Z. If we don't show up as a people to court, and we get what we get, right? And so to hear you say this has been heartwarming for me, and I just want to thank you so much for calling in. But what
I just want to, in closing,
yes,
say
sir.
one thing. You're 100% about participation.
Mm-hmm.
You have to vote so you can sit on these juries.
Yes.
That jury pool was 8 African Americans, 7 on the 12, 7 out of 12, and 1 alternate. It was a balance of Philadelphia.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And these wasn't people walking around with their pants down and acting like a fool. These was respectful, tax-paying citizens of Philadelphia.
That warms my heart to hear. Thank you so much for letting us know that. You have a wonderful morning on purpose. Have a good day. Yes, sir. Bye-bye. All right, we are now 11:15. We have a young sister. Is this young lady on the line? Aceel Duncan, Emma Seal Duncan, Black woman martial art. Say that again.
Asli.
Asli. Thank you. Blame it on my Jamaican accent, okay? Asli, M. Asli Duncan, Black woman martial artist. You and I are going to have a conversation now around how do we protect ourselves, as I like to tell my people, in these Wakandan streets. As a woman of color, for me particularly, I would get up early in the morning and go boxing and lifting weights and, doing cardio. And I would always be told, be careful out there because something could happen to you. And I am finding too often when things happen to us, we're not ready to support ourselves, right? We're not ready to defend what is happening to us. So can you talk to us a little bit about what you do? And then we can move from there?
Sure. I guess in the context of this conversation, I am a lifelong martial artist.
Mm-hmm.
I have primarily studied capoeira, which is an Afro-Brazilian martial art.
Mm-hmm.
I've also studied Taekwondo, which is a Korean martial art, and some other martial arts like karate and Kali and some Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a general interest in kind of just understanding the techniques and the culture of self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that, just out in the everyday world, the energy and the skills that I've learned in these martial art training sessions has given me more so confidence and a sense of self, and not so much about, here's a technique that's going to save you if somebody does this to you. I think it's given me the confidence to kind of assert myself, my space in the quote-unquote streets if I'm in a confrontational situation. So it's for me as a martial artist, it's not about I learned this move, I can go out here and do this and that.
Mm-hmm.
It's about my energy in the world that tells other people, possible assailants, that if you want to confront me in this situation, it's not going to be necessarily what you think it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And usually that means you avoid confrontation, which I think has always been my first goal as a martial artist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, what would you say to people who wanted to learn about self-defense? Because too often, and we asked you on the show because we see so much confrontation in the city. Right? We see people pulling guns. We see them stabbing each other. We see them doing all sorts of unseemly things. An 11-month-old baby, was shot several times. A 2-year-old was shot and killed over the weekend. And I am finding, especially in our community, that when people are aggravated or, and they don't have a way to respond to how things are happening around them, then they make these split-second decisions that are not only costing lives, it's shifting the dynamic where we live, right? So can you talk to me a little bit about what does self-defense look like when it's coming from a place of empathy and seeking to understand before being understood?
I mean, you're talking about building with your community, building with your neighbors, building with the people around you, with your family, and trying to build a certain type of communication that doesn't lead to a violent physical altercation. I mean, you can't do self-defense against a gun. This is not the movie. You might train certain moves in a martial art class context that says, if someone pulls a gun on you, you can do this, but it's unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about societal. We're talking about bigger issues in society. We're talking about we're talking about poverty. We're talking about education. We're talking about people being hungry. These are the issues that kind of create those kind of situations of violence. Non-confrontation is the best self-defense. If you want to physically learn how to do certain things, I would recommend that people actually just go train. And that is a whole different culture.
Okay.
You go train. It's not like you can go train one day or 1 week or 1 year and be like, okay, I can take care of myself. It's a lifelong kind of situation where you're kind of just immersing yourself in a culture where it becomes part of who you are.
Asli, can you hold on 1 second? We're going to take a short commercial break, but we'd like to continue having this conversation with you. Can you hold 1 second, please?
Okay.
Thank you. 96.1 FM, 908 AM. This is Black Talk Radio, and you're listening to radio, and you're listening to Andrea Lawful Sanders, your guest host for The Source. We'll be right back.
Reality check. Reality check. Hosted by Charles Ellison. Monday through Thursday, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. Right here on Word Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live on WordRadio.com.
Family Therapy Vignette Moments with Dr. Lucille Ijoy. The call is out. Don't make me shout. Go learn about the new voting machines. The new voting machines. Register. Vote. We must. And don't let nobody turn you around. The call is out. Don't make me shout. Go learn about the new voting machines. The new voting machines. Register. Vote. We must. And don't let nobody turn you around.
Enterprise Exterminators provides customers with the highest quality service. Enterprise will evaluate and eliminate whatever pest problems you may have, specializing in bed bugs, fleas, mice, and termites. Hurry down to 4943 Wayne Avenue or call 215-849-7070. Enterprise services Pennsylvania, Delaware, and New Jersey and is licensed and insured. Free inspection and do-it-yourself kits are available. Call now and ask about their Word discount. 215-849-7070.
Listen live at WordRadio.com.
Amari's Restaurant, located at 5037 Baltimore Avenue, is known for serving the best breakfast in town. Open every day at 8 a.m. with generous portions, reasonable prices, and senior discounts. Check them out at amarisrestaurant.com.
Vision loss is not something that you feel until it happens.
Most people lose their vision from diseases like macular degeneration and glaucoma, not at birth.
3 million Americans have glaucoma, and half don't even know it.
11 million people in the United States have macular degeneration.
So many eye disorders can be treated if caught early.
Make a plan today to get your eyes checked.
Visit brightfocus.org to learn more.
You're listening to The Source
on Word Radio.
96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Introducing Mary Ben-Ari, the hip-hop violinist, Batman School. Let's go. Jump, 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 jump. Ow, jump, 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 jump.
Welcome back to Black Talk Media. This is WURD 96.1 FM, 900 AM. Our phone numbers are 215-634-8065, toll-free 1-866-361-0900. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and I am your guest host today for The Source. If you were just joining us, we have been having several conversations around the Sean Schellinger, Michael White case. We had a long discussion with Keir Bradford Gray, Chief Public Defender for the Defenders Association in Philadelphia, fifth largest defenders association in the country. They're doing some amazing things over there. They have a pre-entry big launch happening with their coalition on November 14th at the Community College of Philadelphia. Doors open at 5:30, and they have a TED Talk self-discussion from 6 to 7:30. I would encourage all of you in the community who are interested in helping people as they're going through their struggles with court cases to show up so that you can know what you can do from your lens, even if it's something as simple as a character witness, voting so you can be on juries, when you get called, those kinds of things. Right now we're having a discussion around self-defense and what that looks like for us. And we have on the line with us Asli.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for being here with us. So when we left our conversation, we were talking about how are we going to help people to choose different ways to address conflicts that they have. And you brought up a good point around poverty, education, hunger, and really just getting to know your neighbors. And you know, I have to tell you, as simple as it sounds, honestly, it is more difficult for so many people than you can possibly imagine, right? We live in these, Philadelphia is made up of these little communities. I kept hearing that, but I wasn't quite sure what that meant until I moved into this city a few years ago. And, you know, your neighbors are made up of all different kinds of people. And so I was living in a suburban environment and had to adjust my thought processes and my thinking around that. So I had one set of neighbors that, you know, were constantly on the porch making up a lot of noise. Instead of frowning at them and having an attitude each time I saw them, I would say, good afternoon, gentlemen, good evening, gentlemen, good morning, gentlemen. It took a couple of years, but this summer, honestly, as I was planting my garden, one of them came outside and said, Miss, your garden, I come out here and I watch your garden every day, and it makes me feel so much better, to the point where I don't even allow cats to come into your garden. Like, I'm watching, I'm making sure nobody touches your stuff. I want to make sure everything stays right, and I just want to say thank you. I almost cried. Because that could have been something completely different, right? We tend to judge people based on what we see, and we don't know where folks are coming from. The other thing that we've been doing on my block is, when I first moved there was trash everywhere. So I went on Amazon and got a trash picker and started, you know, cleaning up around where I lived. And then I noticed one morning, another couple of neighbors were outside with their trash pickers, picking up the trash. And then one day I went down the entire street and picked up trash. I had a bag just filled with trash from in front of everybody's house. And I looked up one day and realized that people were continuing to pick up their trash, so I never had to do that again. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And
absolutely. I'm also a transfer to Philadelphia and have had many of those same experiences that you have just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like where I live now, where there could have been some confrontations, that these things don't happen because we know each other now. We have relationships with each other.
Right. And so I tell my husband, I said, you know, now when I leave the house, instead of worrying that one of the neighbors might do something to you know, nefarious at our house, now I say, when I walk away from the house, at least I know these young cats next door are going to be all right. At least I know they're looking out for what's going on over here.
Absolutely.
You see what I mean?
Absolutely.
It makes all the difference in the world. And so when we talk about self-defense, and you know, and our neighborhoods are made up of all kinds of people who are, you know, have white collar jobs, people who have blue collar jobs, people who have no jobs, people who are just trying to make ends meet just to pay the bills. Right? Mm-hmm. But when we get to know one another and start to really have authentic conversations, like when you say, good morning, how are you today? Really hear them when they start to say things like, you know, today was not a good day. Spend that extra 5 minutes just finding out, even if you don't have a solution, right? Mm-hmm. To like really hear what they're saying, because just listening to them probably made their entire day. So, you know, when we're talking to you and we're doing self-defense, can you give us some idea about, you know, what this looks like for the average citizen in their community? You and I have talked about some of these other intangible, the soft skills, but what else can we do to create a different environment so we don't have as many of these killings as we've seen going on?
I mean, it's, you know, like I said before, you can learn a set of skills about how to handle something in a physical manner, but ultimately it's about trying to stay in situations where you have non-confrontations, where you can avoid the confrontation. I mean, at the end of the day, also, it's about what are you willing to defend, whether on an individual level or even on a community level. Are you willing to defend your property? Are you willing to defend your family? Are you willing to defend yourself? You have to kind of know these things as you go out and about, and unfortunately out and about in the world that we live in. Mm-hmm. You have to already have this in mind. I will do whatever it takes to defend this thing. If it's like, you know, my backpack is going to get stolen, but it's not the end of my life, then, you know, you deal with it in that way. But if you feel like your life is on the line, or your community or your block is on the line, you have to kind of understand ahead of time what you're willing to do, whether you have training or not, to defend that, to defend that situation or your life.
All right, so give me an example of what someone could do if they feel like, let me get an example.
If you're confronted via with the assailant, like on an individual level?
So let's start with the neighborhood, right? Let's start with a neighbor. So a neighbor is having a bad day, and you drop something that they thought was on their property that should not be on their property, and they start screaming at you about, and the expletives are flying left and right. Give me an example of how we could tone that situation down versus jumping back into that person's face.
Well, I mean, we try not to escalate the situation. In situations like that, it may be hard to reason. But physically, do not approach a person in a way that seems like you are trying to confront them. One of the things we learn is that we kind of stand back. We hold our hands open in front of somebody, kind of showing that we're not in a fighting pose. We have nothing. We're not concealing. Like things like that, physical kind of gestures like that.
Okay.
Can possibly tell another person that you're not trying to be confrontational with them.
Okay.
Don't escalate your voice. Try to reason with them, but try not to up them in the confrontation, in the argument.
Okay.
Sometimes you have to walk away.
Right. Right.
And let time pass and kind of maybe come back to it later when everybody is kind of calmed down or in a different mood.
Okay.
It really depends on the situation. What you don't want to do is to up the ante, to be more to get into somebody's face. You just kind of walk away.
Okay.
You back off.
Okay.
That is the best solution for a self-defense situation. It's non-confrontation.
Okay, so it's open palms out in front, right?
Don't raise your voice.
Don't raise your voice, right?
You're trying to show the other person that you're not trying to be confrontational with them.
Okay. And so what
you
would
walk away.
Right, and you walk away. And so what would you say to the average person who says, well, I don't want to be a punk? I mean, because let's face it, this is what we're seeing quite a bit of, right?
I mean, what can you say to a person who has, do you really, is this worth it?
Right.
Possibly getting hurt or hurting someone else. Is the situation worth it when you can just go about your day? When you go about your day and move on with your life and forget about that thing ever happening.
What would you say then? So let's say you are walking with your backpack on your back and someone says, give me your backpack. I want your shoes. I want your backpack. How would you suggest that someone handle that? I'm just giving the general.
It depends. Every situation is different. Do they have a weapon? Are they bigger than you? Are there other people around? It's just you have to consider all these things in one moment, which is why I say you have to know when you move out in the world, what are you willing to defend? If it's a backpack and you have your laptop in it and you need that laptop, because it has all of blah, 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 that might be a situation where you're like, you say, this is not going to happen. I am going to fight for my laptop. If it's not in there, maybe it doesn't matter. Like, this person is having a hard time. If they have a weapon, it's not even worth it. Just let it go. I want to live another day. I don't want to die over material possessions needlessly. Right?
Right.
So you have to make a decision, but you have to know when you go out in the world, what are you willing to defend?
Right.
Are you walking with your siblings? Are you walking with your children? Would you give your life for that? You have to know that ahead of time, whether you have training or not, that you're willing to kind of get out of that situation. Right. Wow. It's not about moves. Like, you can go and train all you want for years and years, and that's great, and that will do something for you. Yes, it will give you confidence, but it might even save you here and there. But I think it's more about your mentality in the world and you making your stance and saying, this is going to happen or this is not going to happen. Untrained people can get out of situations too because of how they deal with the situation.
So what you're essentially saying to me
is, we grow up dealing with, a lot of negative energy towards us. So women already have like the skills there to kind of reinvest from a possibly violent situation.
Okay. So, I'm listening to you, and I'm hearing you, And what you're essentially saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, is that this really comes down to emotional intelligence, right? And a sense of well-being, as you know, about who you are as a person versus really carrying all of the baggage, you know, outwardly for everybody to deal with as you're going across your day. Can you explain to us what, for instance, what a training, how can someone get to start the self-defense training? What is required from them? You say it's a lifelong thing, but explain to the average person, what does that mean? Because sometimes people say, I don't have time to go through this for the rest of my life. Explain to them what that means, please.
I mean, there are different ways you can train. I've done martial art classes where it was very traditional, very cultural. Capoeira is very cultural. I became very immersed in the Afro-Brazilian culture. I traveled to Brazil to train. I've trained across the country. I've trained around the world within the culture of capoeira, which not only is about training a martial art, but it's about music, it's about dance in that particular martial art. I've also taken individualized self-defense classes where I was taught things to do when you're out in the street. And like, it's a quick way to do this and such. It depends on, you know, what is available to you, what you want to learn. But for instance, for me, I really enjoy doing capoeira.
Can you spell that for me, please? I don't know what that is.
It's a Capoeira. And it's an African-Brazilian martial art. It was developed in the 16th century in Brazil, and it's still around today. It is a martial art hidden behind dance and music. Possibly you've seen people in a circle, and they look like they're kicking, and they're singing a song, and sometimes they flip. This is capoeira.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it depends on what is available to you in your area, what you're looking for, what you're able to do. You can do it all, or you can do one. You know, in Philadelphia, I've taken self-defense classes. There are plenty of places to look into. There are also there are capoeira groups. I teach on a private basis, and in the near future, I will be teaching a class of capoeira in 2020. So, you know, it depends on what you're looking for. Sometimes you take a boxing class. That is also a martial art to an extent, right? And there are plenty of places to do that. Sometimes you just want to just work out and just get strong and feel strong and feel confident about who you are in the world. But yeah, there's limitless opportunities to learn the physical skills of self-defense in Philadelphia.
Okay.
Yeah.
So capoeira, I'm intrigued. I am absolutely intrigued. I want to know more about it. How can people reach you, you know, to get some more information around this, including myself? And what are the average costs of the classes?
It depends. It depends on the context of the teaching, but I would prefer people contact me and we talk about what your needs are.
Okay.
Whether it's a private lesson, and I'm setting up a class situation very soon in 2020, early in 2020 in Philadelphia. But right now, I can be reached either. I have an Instagram page, and it's Abada Philly, ABADA Philly.
So ABABA? ADA Philly?
Yeah, Abada Philly on Instagram. And then I have an email address that people can reach me directly. And it's my capoeira name, which is Arame, and it's ARAME capoeira @gmail.com.
So ARAME CAPOEIRA.
@gmail.com.
At Gmail.
Directly about classes and private lessons.
About class. Asli, I want to thank you so much for giving us a wealth of information around self-defense and what we needed to do. I appreciate that you corroborated what I've always thought, right? That, you know, it's all about who we are as people and what we bring into the table and how we choose to address, you know, and how to de-escalate things. Thank you for calling us on WURD. We really appreciate you. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're quite welcome. So for those of you who were listening just now, you can reach Asli at Instagram, Abada Philly. So that is my Jamaican accent. So let me just spell that for you. It's A-B, A, D as in dog, A again, Philly, Philly, and her email address is Arami Capoeira, which I'm going to spell again, ARAMECAPOEIRA @gmail.com. You are listening to Black Talk Media, 96.1 FM, 900 AM. This is The Source, and I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, your guest host.
JD's Auto Body and Painting is Philly's premier paint and body shop. So stop by for your free estimate and get your 10% word discount today. They're located at 6300 Wayne Avenue. Give them a call at 215-848-5949 and visit them at JD's Auto Body and Painting Inc.com.
Word family, you are not alone.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and Word Radio wants you to know that those who suffer from this disease,
Their families
and friends,
are not alone. Word Radio encourages everyone to fight.
That's why we're launching Fight for Word, an awareness campaign aimed at bringing attention to early detection,
Support groups,
prevention,
and treatment of breast cancer.
This month, we're shining a light on those in the fight.
Plus, all month long, when you start or renew your 4Word membership, you'll get a very special pink Fight for Word t-shirt.
Keep the conversation going with the hashtag #FightForward.
and share inspirational messages, stories, and words of encouragement.
Make a difference.
Together.
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 Together, let's fight forward.
For more information or to start or renew your 4Word membership, call 215-425-7875.
Be heard.
Want another way to join the conversation?
Follow us on social media.
Using the hashtag onWURD.
Be heard.
Stay connected to Word Radio.
Independent Black Media.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
You're listening to The Source
On Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
You love me, baby, and every word is true. Now you're acting kinda funny, woman. Got me wondering what's wrong with you. You're gonna miss me, girl, all the days that I'm gone. Crying, baby, I'm just gonna leave you alone. There's no need to call me, baby, 'cause I won't answer my phone. I've got something to tell you, woman, that the sweet loving man is gone. You're gonna miss me, girl, all the day that I'm gone. No need of crying, baby, 'cause I'm just gonna leave you alone. trying to drive me away.
Welcome back to Black Talk Media. If you are just joining us, we have had an interesting morning. My name is Andrea Lawful Sanders. I am your guest host for The Source, 96.1 FM, 900 AM. Toll free 1-866-361-0900 and 215-634-8065. Someone called here and said they did not want to be on the air, but just wanted to say that they're learning and that this show has been enlightening to them. And to whoever you are, I want to say thank you, because the ultimate goal for us is to not just talk to hear ourselves talk, right, but to just, to teach as we learn ourselves while we're sitting here in the studio. We have had Chief Defender, Public Defender Kier Bradford Gray in our first hour. We have had a black woman, Asli, who is a martial arts instructor. We learned about this new martial arts program behind the dance music called Capoeira, Capoeira. And I'm super stoked about learning about that piece of it too. And people are calling in. So Kayla is grabbing my little piece of paper. But before Felicia comes online to talk about Pulse and the teen town hall that is happening tomorrow at Zion Baptist Church, I wanted to take at least one call. So we'll go to line 1 and talk to Anita. Anita, are you there?
Oh, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm so excited to hear you. And I enjoy. I don't always respond, but I enjoy. And it is enlightening. That Capoeira, Brazil.
Yes.
I have a friend. I was trying to think of his name, and I couldn't think of his name. But anyway, he was out at Temple, and they had a group there that danced and do that martial arts. And they go back and forth to Brazil all the time.
So
anyway.
But I have never heard of it before this morning, so I am learning. I have never. Okay, listen, Kayla is looking at.
I've never heard of it. I said, Andrea knows everything.
Right, I have. And so now that I've learned all about it, guess who's going to be doing Capoeira and doing Facebook posts, right? Because I want to learn all about it. I can't believe that this thing existed and I didn't know anything. Kayla's over here doing.
Martial arts from Brazil. Look up Brazil.
I will.
And African. Well, you know the African story from Brazil because there's more of us in Brazil than anywhere else in this hemisphere. Oh, yes. I've been thinking about that young man, White.
Yes.
I said, oh, God, I had so many scenarios, I said, oh, God, he has messed up his life, but I'm glad that, people stepped up for him. I kept saying, why didn't you get back on that bike and go a different direction?
Yes. But it's all of the woulda, coulda, shouldas, right? But here's
you can't.
But here's the moment, right. But here's the piece that gives me great hope. There are people like you who are in the community stepping in to help, with college tours and making sure that they're getting mentoring, making sure that they're learning, making sure that they stay in church, making sure that they're involved in the community, giving them community service. And you can't take for granted.
I'm on my way. I have my girls' high. I'm in girls' high 193. That's June 57. And now, hey, I'm almost 80, so it's
listen, Miss
we're
Anita.
down to 7 people.
Wow.
But what we do is give our money to Girls High alumni for them to give to some girls. And I try to encourage people. That's what these schools need.
Yes.
They need people to give back to the schools and help us with whatever they can do.
Yes, I agree with you.
Some of it is, I don't know what's happening.
But you know what?
Some of the parents just are not.
Well, if you stay tuned, Miss Anita, we're going to talk about that in the 12 o'clock hour and I actually just wrote a piece around parenting and our roles in developing the kind of children and the kind of leaders that we need to. But I don't think the word listeners know who you are exactly. Can I tell them whose mother you are?
Okay. I was going to say, you got to vote November.
So this is Councilman Derek Green's mother. And I have had quite a good relationship with her and her husband over the years. Thank you so much for calling in. And thank you for listening. And we will vote. We will absolutely go out and vote in November.
Yeah.
All right?
Very contentious election. I'm not going to, you know it.
Yes,
you know
ma'am.
It's very contentious.
Yes, ma'am. But we understand what needs to happen so that we can go out and vote. Thank you so much for calling in.
You're welcome.
All right. Goodbye. So we're going to get on, before we take any other phone calls, I have to introduce Felicia Roche. Felicia, you on the line?
I am.
All right. So good morning, sweetie. How are you?
I'm good.
Well, thank you so
much for having me.
You're quite welcome. So I'm going to talk to you for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to go to break, and I'm going to need you to hold on for me. So just so you know up front, right? And I'll take a few calls while, in between all of that, so you're aware of what we're doing. I've known you now for a while. But you have a new initiative in Philadelphia because you were so concerned about what was going on in the system as it applies to the violence and teenagers that you started a new initiative that is launching tomorrow, correct?
Correct.
All right. So tell everybody about the initiative and what's happening.
So it's Philadelphia United Leadership Service and Exchange, which is for short PULSE. And we are having our first Teen Town Hall tomorrow evening at 6:30 at Zion Baptist Church. And PULSE is in place as a liaison, as a resource for the community, specifically wanting to start conversation or to continue the conversation with young people about what it is they want to see happen in their communities. What is it that they feel as though they need from our community leaders, and more importantly, it's a focus on a major resource that we have that I think a lot of people sometimes forget is a resource, which is the church. The church is in the communities, and I know growing up for me, it was a major resource, and we want to start having that conversation about how to bridge the gap between the community and the church and how to get resources into the community through the church. Okay. And so we're starting with a conversation that all begins tomorrow.
So tell people where the exact address is and the time it starts.
So Zion Baptist Church is at Broad and Venango, which is 3600 North Broad Street. And it is tomorrow evening, Wednesday, October 23rd at 6:30 p.m. As of right now, we do have it happening in the gym, but as soon as you come to the church, you'll be directed into the room that we're using. And, we're expecting young people. A lot of young people, a lot of teens are excited to come out and talk about what's been on their hearts and what's been on their minds, that they want to communicate to the community leaders about what it is they feel as though they need to address a lot of the issues that we're seeing in our community right now.
Tell me why this is so important to you specifically.
So anyone knows me knows I've always had a heart after young people, but I think that comes from just my background. Born and raised in Philadelphia, from a place of poverty, and pretty much as I was growing up, the reason why I am where I am today is because there were people in the community that supported me, and I learned about resources, right? So resources is what got me to where I am today. It was what has been able to help me raise my kid, who, is an amazing teenager now. But I understand the importance of resources, and I know the pain of a young person who feels lost and confused and doesn't really know where to turn. And I've gotten to experience both ends of that, and so I see what's happening in our community, and I know our young people can be reached. And I know that there's a conversation that can happen that could change things in a major way. We just have to make sure we have that conversation and hear them. Like, we have to really, really hear young people, show them support, show them that they have resources, show them that they are loved.
So you know what you've done. So you know what you've done to try and bridge the gap is a brave thing, right? And let me tell you why. You were trying to work with two separate groups, young people who have felt so incredibly unheard over the years that they've developed this what I like to call a crud around them, right? That says, I'm not hearing anything that you have to say to me because you don't listen. And then on the other side, we have churches, and churches come with what churches come with, right? There's leadership, there is, the big eyes, the little T's, the armor bearers, how churches run their, each church is so very different in the way that they run their congregation. And sometimes that's difficult to bridge, because even while we're trying to get them to listen to each other, there's always been this, well, you have to do what we say, follow the word, da 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 da. So you've taken on a large task, if you will, but because you are looking to support young people, I believe that this will eventually work itself out to the place where churches will become the catchment again, right?
Yes.
Because people are choosing to go to other places to get support when the church has always been that piece of the community. Now, there was a time when you yourself as a young person, because you're not old, you're a young person,
Thank you.
struggled with the church, and so to see you come back, when we come back from the break, I want you to talk a little bit about that struggle and why you are here where you are today, okay? Can you hang on for a little bit?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. This is 96.1 FM, 900 AM. You are listening to Black Talk Media. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and I am your guest host for The Source, where we will be back shortly.
If you want to start your morning with mindfulness, motivation, and inspiration, tune in to Daybreak with me, Helana, here on WURD Radio, Monday through Friday from 6 to 7 a.m. I'm a health and wellness coach with over 15 years experience helping people to transform their lives. On the show, we talk health and wellness 360, from getting your mind right to getting your money right. So let's rise and shine together right here on WURDradio.com, 96.1 FM, 900 on your AM dial on Daybreak every morning.
Just one more step. You got it.
You're doing great. This is the sound of a nationally ranked top rehabilitation hospital, home to the largest collection of robotics in the United States, where we continually exceed patient expectations, because no injury is too severe or too minor for our care.
There you go.
This is the sound of success. Moss Rehab. Challenge accepted.
Listen to Laborers Live.
We created the weekend. We created the 40-hour work week. We just want enough to feed our family, be able to send our children to college, and let our next generation do better than we did.
To people that might have forgot how important unionism is in a country like the United States. People now infringing on our 8-hour work day, trying to work people more than 8 hours without overtime, trying to work people without benefits. In the long run, everybody's getting a fat paycheck except the worker. So this is really a wake-up call for America.
The struggle is continuous. Tune in to Laborers Live every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Sponsored by LESIT, the Laborers Employers Cooperation Education Trust of the Laborers District Council of Philadelphia and vicinity.
Local 332, Sam Staten Jr. Business Manager. Local 57, Esteban Vera Business Manager. Local 135, Dan Woodall Jr. Business Manager. Local 413, James Harper Jr. Business Manager. The Laborers District Council, Ryan Boyer Business Manager, and Tony Staten, Executive Director of LESIT.
Word family, this is Sarah Lomax Reese, President and CEO of WURD Radio. Join me on Friday, November 1st from 5:30 to 7 p.m. for the next installment of the Walter P. Lomax Jr. MD Speaker Series, Struggle and Progress, a conversation on Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman. I'm excited to interview two of the leading scholars on Douglass and Tubman, Dr. C. James Trotman, founding director of the Frederick Douglass Institute, and Dr. Erica Armstrong Dunbar, author of She Came to Slay, The Life and Times of Harriet Tubman. This powerful discussion will be held at the Barnes Foundation as part of their First Friday festivities and will precede the premiere of Ruth Naomi Floyd's Frederick Douglass Jazz Works, a suite of music created to honor the legacy of the famed activist and abolitionist. You do not want to miss this amazing event, which happens to fall on the same day as the release of the new Harriet Tubman movie. Space is limited. For ticket information, go to wordradio.com or call 215-425-7875.
In partnership with the Barnes Foundation, sponsored by Pico and Comcast NBC 10. Now, with more clarity, this is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Streaming live at wordradio.com.
Welcome back to Black Talk Media. If you're watching on Facebook Live, I'm in here jamming to the good music, child. 215-634-8065 is our phone number. Toll free 1-866-361-0900. 96.1 FM, 900 AM. This is The Source, and I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, your guest host. Before we go back to Felicia Roche, who's talking about Pulse, Philadelphia United Leadership for Service and Exchange, where she's trying to bridge the gap between teenagers and the churches in the community, starting with Zion Baptist Church tomorrow, 3600 Broad Street at Broad and Venego. See, the Jamaican accent again. And that starts at 6:30 p.m. I'd like to go and take a call. So we're going to go to line 2. Bryant, are you there?
Hey,
Bryant.
how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. I just chimed in because I teach senior self-defense.
Oh, do you?
And I teach it with the Oak Street Health Organization. I have 2 locations that I teach. Matter of fact, I'm about to go in and teach my seniors today.
What? So give us your information. Where are you?
Well, my name is Brian Hopkins. I'm an instructor. I teach. I have a course called Refuse to be a Victim, and it's for seniors, but I also teach lady self-defense also, and I take it from hand-to-hand combat all the way up to firearms.
Okay.
In reference to having an added value of how you protect yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that my company and my organization does is we teach you not only the physical aspects of it, but the understanding of how to explain in a horrific situation of how do you explain how you had to defend yourself. Because most people don't understand that when you get into a self-defense situation, when you encounter law enforcement, when they ask you a bunch of questions, what happened? What did you do? I teach you how to understand and slow the picture down so you can give better information. Because a lot of times what happens is you kind of relive your incident, and it's very hard to explain what you went through. So part of my organizational aspect in teaching is not just the physical or the awareness part of it, but what comes afterwards. And that's what a lot of organizations tend to not really focus on. But I focus on that because I'm in law enforcement, so in order to understand things, you have to be able to articulate. And this is what I teach. I teach the basic articulation, certain words to use that are more law enforcement friendly to get your point across. If you had to use deadly force or you had to injure someone, you have to explain what that would look like in order for law enforcement to deem that a self-defense incident. So a lot of times what happens is seniors, ladies, anybody that's assaulted really doesn't understand if they had to defend or fight back. A lot of times there's no third party to give a corroborating understanding. So based on that, it's one of those things where if it's not really taught, it's very hard. Because all law enforcement officers are taught to report right. They're taught to understand the situation and put it on paper. Civilians don't really get that training.
Right. I absolutely agree with you. So let me ask you, senior citizen, that means what? From ages
that
what
means
to what?
Anybody that is deemed to be a seasoned individual.
Oh, so we could be 35 and up, huh?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Okay.
Because anybody can be assaulted at any time.
That's
the
right.
problem in and of itself is that I teach seniors because I don't teach handicapped. I teach handy-capable. And when you give people that are in their golden years and understanding that they're still valuable in society and they need to protect themselves, then they empower themselves. Because sometimes what happens is you go through your life without any type of horrific incident, any type of physical altercation. So therefore you're walking around not knowing how to truly defend yourself.
Right.
Because, I've been minding my business all my life. But that's not always the case. Somebody is always out there ready to compromise.
Absolutely. How can they reach you, sir?
Well, you can reach me. Well, I can give you my number offline.
Offline? Okay, that's fine. So if anybody needs to know, okay.
Yeah,
will do.
But if anybody's a part of Oak Street Health in any one of the locations, I currently do business with 2, the Aramingo location and the Cheltenham location. So if they're part of any of the other locations throughout the city, go to their program manager and ask, because my course is called Refuse to be a Victim, and State Agent LLC is what I operate in.
Thank you so much for calling in. And, you know, you gave us a valuable information. I am going to call myself. I consider myself a seasoned citizen.
Please do.
So Kayla will...
I don't do any old, young. It's not about that. It's about season.
All right. Well, hang tight. Kayla will take your information. And so, you know, we'll be able to do that. Thank you so much for calling. You're welcome. All right. So back to Felicia. Felicia, you there, darling? Oh, thank you for holding. So as you can see, Mother is really busy over here on this side, but trying to keep it together. So I want you to share with us now, you know, as much as you want to, around your energy with church, what got you back to this place where you are now, where you're doing Pulse and trying to bridge the gap.
So I have been a youth advocate for years now, but mostly advocating for education and mental health because that's something I'm extremely passionate about. But obviously with all of what's been happening as of late with all the shootings and the gun violence, I've been more trying to focus on mentorship and what can we do to reach our children. And someone asked me before this all started, well, what worked for you? And I didn't want to be honest at first because, to be totally honest, the church is what works for me. And that's where it gets complicated because I have a lot of what they call church hurt. Growing up in the church, I felt judged. I felt misunderstood. I had a lot of trauma growing up, and so I had a lot of some behavior issues as a teen. And but the church was always there for me. So I started going to my church when I was 10 years old, spent my teen years through there, and I became a teen mom, which is when I got the most judgment that I felt like, you know, was unfair and just didn't feel like I fit anymore. But to be totally honest with you, the same church that I felt judged by was the same church that supported me through my pregnancy and supported me with resources once I had my daughter. So I was homeless for a good part of my pregnancy, and there were times that I was homeless after I had my daughter. And when I didn't know where my next meal was going to come from, I ate at church. The stability, the fact that they were always there, they didn't move, even though I was moving all the time because I didn't have a stable place to live and I didn't have family. They embraced me and they became my family. So while there are some, from what I personally feel, some problematic things that come out of organized religion and church, it doesn't change the fact that the church has long been a staple in the Black community. And I do believe if we work together, obviously there is work that needs to be done, but if we definitely can get back to a place where the church is that stable again, there's a new generation and there's a new type of language that happens with leadership now that I think we have to address. We have to just have that conversation so that we can bridge that gap and get back to what that resource is in our community, because it's a powerful one. If we really, and I know it sounds cliche, but if we really united, we're stronger. If we really come together in love, the kind of love that God intended the church to really embrace people with, the church can be an amazingly powerful resource for our young people and for the community at large.
What do you hope to get from this? What is your ultimate goal, Felicia?
The ultimate goal, I mean, the big dream, honestly, is a cohesiveness in our city. Pulse is designed to be a coalition of churches, right? So we're doing this all over the city. We're starting in North Philadelphia, but we're going everywhere. And the big idea is that Pulse is going to be the heartbeat of the city, in the churches, in the community, and young people will have this camaraderie of, oh, well, you're a part of Pulse, because what we're hoping for is that resources like mentorship programs and basketball leagues and football leagues and job trainings and all of those things would be placed in the church. Pulse is partnering with some city, the mayor's office and some city officials so that we can get those resources in the community through the church. And so the church can become that place that people come to get those resources. Then it becomes a membership for Pulse, and then it becomes a citywide thing, citywide league, citywide mentorship programs that all come out of Pulse, that all come out of church, and it connects everyone, especially our young people, to resources that they may just not know about because they're not in a place to learn about it. The church can spread that into the community by information and, again, by actually giving those resources out as well.
Wow. That is a tall order, Felicia.
I know.
No, I mean,
let's just be clear. This is God. This is all God's work. He really laid it on my heart. Personally, this has been a struggle for me because of my frustration with knowing that, the church could be doing more, but also embracing the fact that the church has been there and the church has done things. I just think if we work together, we could do more. And I think it starts with a conversation with our young people.
Which is what I love so much about you, because it wasn't either or, it was both and, right? You had the frustration, but instead of, turning your nose on the church or just twisting your hands, you decided to jump in to be a part of the solution. What would you say to people who will say, we've been trying this all over the city? One of the things that, and I'm just speaking from Andrea's point of view, one of the things that frustrates me the most as a thought leader is how many people are taking on different programs from different avenues in the city, not willing to work with each other. Right? It's about, this is my program over here, and you got to come to this church. It's happening at this church at this time, and we can't mix with what you're doing over here because that's what our ministry is about. And the fact of the matter is, for those of us who, who believe in organized religion of some sort, we believe that what you do for the least among us or for people who are needed the most is not about the big I's and the little T's. And so you're taking on a monumental task in that you're going to run into folks who are just going to be, who may become roadblocks for you. My encouragement for you in the middle of all of this is to always remember why you're doing it. Right? That there are young people, the life you may save. I don't know if you were on the radio this morning when Keir Bradford Gray was on, and she talked about the fact that, with the Michael White case, and talked about the fact that not 2 years before, she was approached by a group of people who wanted her to run for district attorney. I was sitting in that room that day when that conversation was happening, and it was maybe about 8 or 9 or 10 of us, maybe a little bit more, and they were giving her every reason why she should quit being the public defender and to run for office. Had been approached too at higher levels to run for this office. And as they were telling her that she must do this, it would be the best thing for the city, and she's not about her, Keir stood her ground and said, I'm sorry, but I just don't believe that my job as a public defender is quite complete. Right? I am here for a purpose, and something in her would not let her jump on the bandwagon and say, oh, well, let me go ahead and do it because my name will be in lights, She thought about her husband. She thought about her children. She thought about the Defenders Association where she worked and all that she had put into it and what she had hoped to accomplish, because she wanted the Defenders Association to be known for something other than just where the poor people go, right? And no one really knows what they do. Imagine, and I want you to consider this, imagine if Keir had jumped and taken that. What would have happened when Michael White needed somebody to step in? See what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Sometimes, Felicia, we move too quickly. Sometimes we let our emotions get in the way, and we're thinking about, instead of thinking about the collective, we're thinking about how we think and feel. I personally know that you have a heart for young people, and I also personally know that this journey that you're now taking is not an easy one. It is not an easy one. What are you going to do? So everybody's coming tomorrow, right? Do you know how many people you're expecting? Is everybody invited, or is it just for the community of Zion Baptist Church?
Everybody is invited, specifically if you have a teen, bring your teen, caregivers, parents, community leaders. If you have a teen that has something to say, that has concerns, that they have voiced these type of concerns or have had these conversations, please bring them, because that's who we really want to hear from. And I've had these conversations with the young people in that community in North Philadelphia. They are going to be there. The community is invited, the church is invited, so we're expecting a good amount of those people coming, but as far as the young people I've connected with, we're looking about 30 young people who have something to say. And so we really want the community to come and hear.
Right.
This is a safe space for them. Let's be very clear about that. This is about them. This meeting, Pulse will grow, and we will have these conversations moving forward. But I just want to be clear that we really want to create a safe space for them tomorrow to really be able to feel embraced. It's a judge-free zone. They are going to speak what's on their hearts. So, yes, that's what's happening tomorrow. And moving forward, I hear what you're. I absolutely. It's my heart is just beating harder and faster as you're saying that, because I'm like, I know this is what happens. One of the things that I talk to a lot of people who are working in the communities and who do have nonprofit organizations or are doing the actual work in the community say the same thing. There's so many out there. We're just not working together. PULSE stands for Philadelphia United Leadership Service and Exchange, right? So this whole idea is about bridging the gap between resources and whatever nonprofit, whoever's doing the work. We want everyone to come together, share resources. PULSE will have their own meetings when it's just leadership as well, moving forward, because we want to share resources. We want to share information. We want to hear about what's happening in your community so we can try different things just like you're doing. There's enough work for everybody. You don't have to be like stingy or greedy with it. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to start a nonprofit and wanted to be more so the middleman or the liaison, because there are a lot of great programs out here and there are a lot of resources. And I think what we need is a ground zero. To get all of that information, like a hub to get all that information out. And there are hubs already in our community, and they're called the church. So I really feel like those should be the hubs where people will come in, just like any resource center, like the library or a rec center. I think a church can be a part of that as well.
Okay, so let me be clear while you're being clear. Tomorrow evening, everyone is invited to attend. What Felicia is saying that I want the listening audience to grasp is that this is going to be a listening session for you. That is going to be a safe space for the teenagers to have a conversation about what's on their mind. So I know that it's sometimes difficult to identify with young people and how they speak and the languages that they use, but this is why Pulse is here, right? So that we can listen and take notes and find out what resources are going to be available to point them in the right direction. For instance, you said something to me the other day around young people who want to start businesses but are being discouraged, right?
Correct.
Right. So that's one of the things that we're going to talk about tomorrow. I cannot tell you enough how I appreciate what you're doing on behalf of the young people. And if someone wants to support you, either monetarily or to be physical support to you or to, to show you where the services are, how can they reach you?
Okay. So Pulse, you can follow on Instagram as Pulse_leadership. But to reach me, you can find me on Facebook under my name, Felicia Roche, Roche. I'm also on Instagram, f.roche. And then you can also email me. It's frochebusiness@gmail.com. And so you can find me on any of those platforms. Send me a direct message. And, that'd be the best way to find me, and I will be at Zion tomorrow.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, Pulse_leadership is where?
Pulse_leadership is on Instagram.
Instagram, that's what I thought you said. And we can find you on Facebook, Felicia Roche. That is FELICIAROCHE. On Facebook, and you can find her email. It's FROCHE business BUSINESS@gmail.com. Felicia, thank you so much for calling in. I will see you tomorrow. You get ready and continue to be the light that you've always been for young people, because they not only want to hear from you, they need to hear from you. Talk to you soon. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome.
Bye-bye.
So before we go on a commercial break and get ready to talk to this dynamic next person, Kim Reed. I just wanted to sort of recap some of what we've talked about. This city has so much potential, so many resources, and is in need of so much. We have people with so many talents, and it would behoove us at this point, after the conversations we've been having this morning around self-defense, around, people, showing up into our communities that don't look like us, gentrification, around, drug abuse, around poverty, around all these things that are happening with us. And we're looking at folks like Felicia Roche, who is trying to bridge the gap, right, to be a hub between churches and teenagers. We're looking at Keir Bradford Gray, who took her 537 employees and are making quite a difference on behalf of the citizenry in Philadelphia. We're looking at City Council, who have thought enough to hire more people so that we can get more help for those that are in the community. We're looking at, I mean, we could just go on and on about the re-entry coalition, pre-entry coalition. Before we get them to jail, we want to help them. That's now coming. So we're going to break, but 215-634-8065. This is Black Talk Media. My name is Andrea Lawful Sanders, and I am your guest host for The Source. We'll be right back with Kim Reed.
Get your money straight. Get my money right. With Solomon Jones and Akbar Hassan.
Fridays on Wake Up with Word.
7 a.m. till 10 a.m. Hosted by Solomon Jones. Exclusively on Word Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Streaming live on wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
Independence is a precious thing, but now and then everyone needs a little help. Isn't it good to know that getting the help you need doesn't mean drastically changing your life? Always Best Care Philly and Delaware is there to give you just the amount of help you need, from a few hours a week to as many hours as you need, handling everything from light housekeeping to meals, and so much more. Don't struggle. Contact Always Best Care and see how easy it is to age in place. Call us at 267-909-9248 or visit abcphillybristol.com.
It's the rapping professor. Did you miss me? Well, I'm coming back to the airwaves, y'all. Every Saturday, starting November 2nd, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. The rapping professor, bringing the truth into context like nobody else. We're going to turn up, and the turn up is 1 p.m. starting November 2nd. That's right, 1 p.m. November 2nd, the return of the rapping professor. You're turning up with word, y'all.
WordRadio.com.
I want to go to college, but I want to make sure my degree leads to a career that pays well and is in demand.
Me? Well, I want to earn a bachelor's degree, but I worry that I won't be able to afford it.
Are you ready to get started on your path to a degree or future career? Community College of Philadelphia's programs are a direct path to today's most sought-after careers. If you're interested in earning your bachelor's degree, spend the first 2 years at Community College of Philadelphia and earn that degree for less, much less. Affordable tuition, payment plans, and opportunities for financial assistance make it possible for you to pursue your goals. With multiple locations throughout the city and your choice of day, evening, weekend, and online classes, you're sure to find something that fits your schedule. Start your success story with us this spring. Join us on main campus for an open house on Monday, October 28th from 5 to 7 p.m. or apply now for spring classes at ccp.edu. Spring classes start January 13th.
You're listening to The Source on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Now I've heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do you? It goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall and the major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Your faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof, a beauty in the moonlight overthrew you. She tied you to her kitchen chair. She broke your front and she cut your hair, and from your lips you drew hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Welcome back to Black Talk Media, 96.1 FM, 900 AM. Our phone numbers are 215-634-8065 and toll-free 1-866-361-0900. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and I am your guest host for The Source today. Wow, 3 hours have gone by so quickly, but we wanted to end this segment by talking to someone whom I've met a few times. I don't really know her well, but I'm happy to say that I do know who she is, and it's Kimberly S. Reed, MED, Global Diversity, Equality, and Inclusion Strategist, and Chief Transformational Officer for Redevelopment Group. Lord have mercy. That was a tongue twister. How are you, sister?
I am great. Hey, Andrea, you are doing a fantastic job sitting in, my darling.
Thank you, my love. I fully appreciate it. And while we're on the air, can I just tell you, so the whole world can hear this, I would love to get to know you better. We're both so busy, but, you know, I would love it if we could get to know each other, because our paths keep, you know, crisscrossing each other.
Yes, they do.
Yes, yes. And we know the same fabulous people, which is just amazing to me.
The world is so small. So, yes. We have said it in front of the world.
Yes,
so
we did.
We are going to do that. But you know what? We didn't need the world to do that.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? But sometimes we just got to push ourselves. You know what I mean? So I'm psyched about talking to you, and let me tell you why. First of all, your energy is just amazing. I've never been in a room with you where you were, you know how you walk into the room and you see some people and they're just like, don't you know who I am? You are open and vivacious, and, you know, you're talking to people. I'm telling you, I don't miss a beat, Kim. I watch people. I do. I absolutely do. And so you're just amazing. And you've always been that person, you know? And you pump up the room, and you love on people, and you hug them, and you talk to them. And I also notice with you that when you're talking to someone, you give them your full attention. Tell me Diva's not paying attention, right?
Oh, well, thank you. Well, you know what? It's funny. I watched my mother for years, ever since I was 5 years old. I told this brief story on Sunday. We had the Making Strides for Breast Cancer Walk. It was phenomenal. I walked with, 13,000 of my closest friends in the rain, and I told them that quick story. I said, I always wanted to be like my mother since I was 5 years old, and I watched her when I went to cocktail parties, business receptions. She was an executive for major organizations, and I saw that growing up, how she always gave everyone their attention. And, it's funny, I found that I adopted some gestures of her, always touched faces that she really cared about. And she always gave everyone's undivided attention, and she made everyone feel special and loved. And so I hope that I do that and create memorable experiences like you described when I enter a room or meet other people. So that's very special and a blessing to me that you said that. So thank you.
You're welcome, because I'm telling you, listen, I don't always say what I see, but I never miss a beat. Trust me. So the last time I saw you, we were roaming Martha's Vineyard, right? I was there to work, and you were doing your thing. And I want to talk to you today because, as a black woman who has forged her own pathway and are doing amazing things and with other black women, I want to have a dialogue with you today around what does that look like for people who are staring at us, right? Because people think that we just wake up and it's fabulosity. They think we just wake up and the degrees pop up. They think we just wake up and, starting a business and being a thought leader and being a talk show host and all the other things that we do every day and make it look like black girl magic, right? I really want you to describe for those of us listening what is required to be a woman, a black woman, who is creating her own pathway with no apologies.
Well, I will tell you. So it's funny. So I'll shift gears a little bit because I know I was speaking with the other producers of the show yesterday when I was asked to do this, and we were talking about really also to empowering women, empowering that single black mother that's also trying to go into the workforce and that's trying to really create that magic that we're talking about every single day, despite maybe some odds that she may be facing. So we're going to kind of encourage, if you don't mind,
not at all,
all women, right? And we'll kind of speak to a kaleidoscope of things. And so the first thing, though, that I really will say, because there are so many women, so many people that do take it to the max every day, that women, we deserve a standing ovation, and you should take it. Every woman who looks in the mirror every day before she walks out into the world deserves a standing ovation. Now, I am speaking specifically to the women because that's who you asked me to talk to, because the brothers deserve it too.
Yes, they do.
About it. But women, especially our single mothers, especially our women that, have fallen against some odds, right? There is a funny thing, and not funny as in humorous, but funny about things that we feel of, for example, how to get that next opportunity, how to start your own business. And that if you read job ads, or if you read on the internet, on LinkedIn, or some of these job search sites, or some of these how-to sites of how to start your own business, a lot of times we think that employers, or we think that starting your own business is really about very specific types of experience, when it is not. It is all you can see sometimes is a job ad, or this how to start your own business with, $25, right? Or these long lists of bullet points or essential requirements, like years of experience in a particular genre of work, or a particular tool, or all of these industry certifications, when really the whole picture changes, especially now, because people, employers, people who are looking to give you capital to start a business, right? This magic that we're talking about. People are now looking for qualities that are never really listed. What do I mean by that? People want to meet people who are self-directed and responsible. And here's the last and important one. Creative, too. Creative and driven. You cannot teach those aspects or characteristics, I should say. You can, but they have to be within you, right? So there's a level of tenacity that single mother has, right? And resilience and, and flexibility and work ethic, right? When she heads back into the workforce. Or someone who has faced a significant level of adversity and who has overcome, right? So if someone is already talented and has these grand skills on their resume, and they go in for an interview, I'm talking to someone who is, sitting, listening, and saying that I need to get back into the workforce. And then I'll talk to the entrepreneur in a minute. But who needs to go back into the workforce, and who's a single mom, or who is someone that has fallen on hard times. You have the skill set. If they have called you to come in for the interview, you have the talent. We know that. But what they are looking for are things that are not listed on a job description. They are looking for people. They want to meet people, as I've mentioned, who are self-directed, who are responsible, who bring out the qualities in the answers of job interview questions or questions around, for that entrepreneur, around what is your business, what is your idea, that they are looking for certain stories that bring out, these very radiant qualities of who you are as a person. They want you to talk about your best traits. They want you to shine through on your flexibility, your resilience, your ability to be eager and willing to add more knowledge to what you already have, your honesty, your level of integrity, your ability to communicate. These are important things that we do not see listed necessarily in a job description or on the blueprint of life or on the blueprint of how to be that successful entrepreneur. And I will say this, Andrea, I celebrated 12 years on Sunday of being in business, October 20th. And, there is no blueprint for failure. And because you're going to fail far more in life than you succeed. And you are going to have a lot of trial and error. But I will tell you some key. There's two keys to success. People. That means your network. That's currency. That's real life currency. And perseverance. That's grit. If you don't have those two things, you might as well go and sit and just be. Don't go to work. Don't become an entrepreneur. Because if you don't understand that it takes people, relationships, and it takes making deposits in those relationships. It also takes grit, consistency, and perseverance to make it happen. And you've got to understand that nobody is going to come and save you.
Oh, Lord.
So you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
So this is just the foundation of our conversation, but there are some things that I think that people have to know that we always expect, like the workers, people who are looking for interviews or go for interviews always expect, this turnkey of let me follow the job description. That's not what we're looking for. Or an entrepreneur is, looking for this, this $24.95. I could teach you how to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
That's not it.
Right.
That's not it. It comes from within, and taking the talents and skill sets you already have, and taking these behavioral abilities and who you are and who you're becoming, making it happen for you and taking it to the max every single day. That's what makes the magic.
I agree. And so it's so interesting. I'm sitting in the studios today. For those who are watching on Facebook Live, I am wearing the jabot. For those who don't know what I'm talking about in the listening audience, it's spelled J-A-B-O-T. It's like a tie for women. And I happened to look online the other day and saw one of my Facebook friends wearing one. And I said to her, tell me, where did you get this from? I didn't know the name of it at the time. And she says, oh, my mother makes these things. So I said to her, introduce me to your mother. Her mother comes back door and messenger, the nicest, sweetest, kindest human being I have ever spoken to. Seriously, right? And she was so wonderful. I went from getting one just to support her business to getting 3 and asking her to make some more for me, right? And it's that level of, learning how to network with people, how to persevere. I don't know how long she's been doing this, but that kind of tenacity is what builds businesses. People think that they should just put out the sign, right? And all will come flocking to them. The average business fails 8 to 10 times before it succeeds. I tell people this all the time, Kim, and they don't listen. It's like, well, it's not working, so I'm just going to, would you prefer to be called Kim or Kimberly?
We know each other now, so it's Kim.
Okay. Because, I don't like to assume these things and these will come on the streets.
No, my dear. You are You are so good.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you so much. And so for me, it's, what do you say to the person who believes, here's the other thing, Kim, that if I hitch my wagon to someone who is popular and well known in business and industry, I need us to talk about this. I'm going to need us. We have 1 minute, and then I'm going to go to break, and then I'm going to come back with you. I'm going to hold on to you on the radio because I want you to honestly talk to me about what is it like for those people who believe, well, I know so-and-so and so, don't want to do any work. You see them, their faces are always twisted in the wind, right? But they believe that you should give them all the accolades and all the benefits because of who they know and what they know. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And before we go to break, I think, too, what we need to also end on, perhaps, is that when you talk about what we're going to talk about next, which is good, is you've got to be comfortable with you, who you are, right?
Kim, you about to make me do a dance in this here studio. Stop it.
There has to be a level of, there's comfortable confidence, right? Employers, entrepreneurs, people, yourself. It starts with you. People want to hire and work with people who are comfortable with themselves. There is comparison is a thief to joy.
I got to go to break. You are going to make me have a heart attack in here. Comparison is a thief to joy. We will be right back, Kimberly. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back. This is Black Talk Media, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, 215-634-8065. I am Andrea Lawful Sanders, and I am your guest host for The Source. We'll be right back shortly. Don't go anywhere.
Don't miss The Source.
Weekdays 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
on WURD Radio.
WURDradio.com and the WURD Radio app.
Honey, it's our favorite time of year, and I got you something to celebrate.
A McRib! It's just what I wanted.
Happy McRib season, sweetie.
I love you.
I love you too.
Actually, I was talking to my McRib.
Oh, okay, well, I'll leave you two alone.
McRib season is here, but not for long. Get one now for just $3.99. Limited time only. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer or combo meal.
WURD family, you are not alone.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and WURD Radio wants you to know that those who suffer from this disease,
their families,
and friends
are not alone. WURD Radio encourages everyone to fight.
That's why we're launching Fight Forward, an awareness campaign aimed at bringing attention to early detection,
support groups,
prevention,
and treatment of breast cancer.
This month, we're shining a light on those in the fight.
Plus, all month long, when you start or renew your Forward membership, you'll get a very special pink Fight Forward t-shirt.
Keep the conversation going with the hashtag #FightForward.
And share inspirational messages, stories, and words of encouragement.
Make a difference. Together.
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 Together, let's fight forward.
For more information or to start or renew your Forward membership, call 215-425-7875. Support independent black media and join the Forward movement now at 215-425-7875 or visit WURDradio.com.
Exit Zero International Jazz Festival will return to Cape May, New Jersey this November, featuring another great season of award-winning jazz music. Among the many performers include stage headliners Manhattan Transfer meets Acapella Sextet Take 6 on Friday, November 8th, The War and Treaty on Saturday, November 9th, and The Messenger Legacy, Art Blakey Centennial Celebration on Sunday, November 10th. You will experience multiple indoor and outdoor stages and other performers, including David Sanborn, Joan Oates, Gerald Veasley, and many more. Visit ExitZeroJazzFestival.com for lineup and ticket information.
You're listening to The Source
on WURD Radio,
96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
Welcome back to Black Talk Media. My name is Andrea Lawful Sanders. I am the guest host for The Source. Listen, if you have missed the first 2.5 hours, I don't know what to tell you. It's been, we have had just a great dialogue in here. And to top it all off, we have, oh my Lord, I can't even go through your whole listing of who you are anymore, kid. There's a lot going on here. Thought leader, strategist, ruler of the free world. She's just doing it all. She is a sister that has it all together in these streets. And I, as I am listening to her, everything that, I've said to young people, because I mentor quite a few young people over the years, is exactly what she's saying to me. And she's now feeding my soul, because you're just giving confirmation to everything that we've talked about. That comfortable competence, oh my goodness. Say more about that. Just let's go back into what we were talking about.
Sure. So so I will tell you though that, that comfortable confidence, people, employers and people, entrepreneurs, teams, they want to hire people who are comfortable with themselves, right? Because it's very difficult to manage and to work with severe insecure people or people with very low self-esteem. Now, let me say something about those two things, though, because I'm very sensitive to people who do have low self-esteem, because low self-esteem and insecurities come from an array of things. I know people who have low self-esteem and are insecure, and oftentimes it comes from childhood. It comes from perhaps they don't have enough people in their immediate circle to tell them how important and how talented that they really are, and that they can achieve everything in anything. And sometimes they don't have a strong spiritual foundation. And so it comes from a multitude of things. Some people, don't have confidence in themselves because they don't believe enough in who they are or trust their own abilities. So I don't want that to sound that's coming from a judgmental place. But what I am saying is that you can get help for that, whether it is therapy, whether it is changing your circle. Because sometimes people who are not comfortable with their confidence, it is due to who they are, who is in their front row in life. And you know what I mean? Because, Andrea, you have done and you are doing terrific things. And you have done a terrific job with this show today.
Thank you.
I have to take a pause and say that. And not only I know you from afar and have seen your work. You are doing extraordinary things, and you are becoming more extraordinary. And I know that you have people in your life, because I know who you know, that lift you, that tell you that you are amazing, that help you become exceptional. I had an amazing mother who is no longer with us, but I also have an extraordinary dad who lifts me every day. Right now I'm going through a very busy season right now, and I'm trying to finish in a very important project, and my dad understands that. And although we used to talk often, but now I check in via text or we talk, we don't FaceTime as much, but he understands for this season that his daughter, his baby girl, is trying to accomplish something monumental. So he is empowering me and encouraging me from afar, and he knows if I fall, and I know if I fall, he's got me. Absolutely. And that's a very powerful feeling that many people don't have, and that attributes to your confidence or lack thereof. So going back directly to comfortable confidence, it's such a key characteristic that people look for, employers and people look for when they want to partner business-wise, when they want to be on teams, because sometimes the negative of a person who is insecure and low self-esteem, which goes to something you want to talk about, is a person being, having this self-agenda or having this, or you can't trust them. And especially that happens, and we're notorious for it with women. And that's unfortunate, especially within black women. And I can only speak to that because I'm a black woman. I know in organizations that I work within and that I'm members of, with some friends that I've had to move from the front row to the mezzanine.
Come on, Kim. Come on.
You know, that because they're not comfortable with their confidence, then they have done some things that I know that they've done, but sometimes you have to decide, is it important to say something or not, because of those variables that I talked about, whether it's childhood, whether it's their own self-image, or whatever the ism is, that uncomfortable confidence has now come into play.
Right.
But you have to understand that comfortable confidence is going to take you from extraordinary to exceptional. It will also take you from great to exceptional. So you have to know what developmental areas in your life to work on to help you excel in whatever it is that you are trying to achieve. Because when you are comparing yourself to other people, that is going to be a thief and take away your joy. And your joy is in the DNA of who you are, and that is what helps you go through adversity, and that subsequently helps you achieve what you are destined to do.
You know what? I'd like to have you back on as a guest if I ever guest host the show again. There's so much that you're touching that I'd like to delve more deeply into, and I can't because we're running out of time. But let me tell you something. This comparison is the thief of joy. I have said to the young people that I mentor, I have Sunday dinners at my house every Sunday, not because I want to feed 10,000 people like Jesus with the fish and the loaves, but I really want to develop authentic communication and community amongst us. And sometimes, when I'm talking to the young people, I say to them, look, you're not always going to be around people who have your best interest at heart, not because they just don't know any better because of, how they were raised, how they grew up, that kind of thing. But I've always said to them, the best way to shut that stuff down is when people come to you with, well, she said such and such and such, or that, you shut it down. I'm sorry. I'm not open to having that conversation right now, and eventually people will start to respect the fact that you're not there to do those kinds of things. You understand what I'm saying? Because when we don't do that, we have no choice but to lift each other up and to create an environment where we can grow and thrive. It is said, Kim, that black women are the most degreed group now in this country. It was said on a Fox News, local Fox station yesterday at 7 o'clock in the morning. I was looking at the television. They said that black women are now doing much better, 3% better. So it's like 98% of them are doing well in corporate America, and yet they remain single, and yet they don't have. I couldn't believe and that we don't have the kinds of money, that we don't own real estate, and that we're not investing, and just all these things. And I'm trying to figure out how we can, as women and thought leaders, develop a way to, not just through our work, but even in the way we handle ourselves daily, right?
Well, Andrea, let me say this, and I know we're crunched for time, but let me just say this, because something you said very powerful before we went to break, what we were going to talk about. People have to understand something, because I see this daily. I see this on social media. I see this in networking meetings. I see this at events. People gravitate to people that they think have this level of influence and power, and that's fine. You should do that. But in people, and sometimes people are opportunistic. I get that. People are trying to, move and shake and move it. I get it. But I made that mistake a long time ago. You have to, whether you think you are above that or not, you need to talk with everyone.
Come on. Okay, now, Kim, you just made me jump in my chair.
Wait, because, Andrea, let me tell you something. When I was at PricewaterhouseCoopers working, I worked there for 5 years. and I survived 7 layoffs. And the only reason why I left PricewaterhouseCoopers, one of the best jobs I ever had, is because it was a merger and acquisition with IBM Consulting, and IBM Consulting took their people. But let me tell you, had I spoke to the janitor that came and emptied my trash every night, I would have known that he emptied the trash in the partners' offices and the folks that were the decision makers of who the 7th round of people were going to be. Because had I known that, I would have known my name was on that list, and I would have known that to get my box ready, so I would have had just a little bit more time to get my strut on when I had to walk out of the office. So the moral of that story is that sometimes people get a little business uppity and only talk to people or only affiliate with people who they think
can help them. Yes.
It's all. They don't. Talk and be kind to everyone, because you're going to make the mistake, because London Bridge
is falling down.
Falls down, not falling. It falls down, and those tables turn at some point in your life.
Yes, ma'am. You were such a powerful ending. I can't thank you enough. If I come back to guest host, I'm calling you. I'm calling you because we need to delve into this a little bit more. And get people to thinking about what this fully looks like from one woman to another, and for the listening audience. Kimberly S. Reed, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us.
My darling, thank you, and you keep shining, honey.
Yes, you too, honey, and I will talk to you soon. Have a good one.
You got it. Have an excellent day.
You
Take
too.
care, everyone.
All right, bye-bye. So listen, we are coming to the end of this show. I think everything I have written, I'm a sister that writes a whole bunch of notes as I'm talking to people. We learned about, opportunistic folks and, not making the mistake, and talking to be able to speak to everyone, to be kind, to have, oh gosh, I can't even. Comfortable competence. To talk about martial arts, the Brazilian capoeira that I'm learning all about. To talk about Pulse, and there's Kayla doing it again. To talk about Pulse and the meeting that's happening tomorrow evening at Zion Baptist Church with Felicia Roche at 3600 Venego, between Broad and Venego. To talk about Keir Bradford Gray and all that she's done with the Public Defenders Association in Philadelphia. We talked about the Michael White case. We talked about gentrification. Lord have mercy. We have talked about it all. I am all talked out, but guess what? We're at the end of this show. I want to thank you yet again for sitting with me as I guest host another episode of The Source. You have a wonderful day on purpose. I'll see you soon.
Hit me.
Hey. If you don't mind, can I be far from perfect? Just can I be me? Do you have time to see what a work in progress really